Please take a seat. So before the meeting starts, could I ask all present to please treat everyone in this chamber with respect. I call upon Reverend Canon Daniel Burton for reflection.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Both my parents could remember exactly where they were when they heard about the assassination of President Kennedy in November 1963. For my generation, today's date holds a similar place in our collective memory. I will always remember exactly where I was when I not only heard, but saw in real time on television exactly what was happening in New York on this fateful day, 11th of September 2001. Over subsequent weeks, months and years, I watched with growing alarm as the United States embarked upon wars in Afghanistan and Iraq in direct response to the events of this day, and realised that there was a danger of our own beloved United Kingdom getting drawn into the escalating conflict. On the 15th of February 2003, I travelled from my then home in South Wales to London to take part in the largest peacetime demonstration that has ever taken place in this country, in a futile attempt to stop the war. It was an electrifying event that I naively assumed would have the desired effect of preventing UK participation. How wrong I was. It would be a brave or foolish person who confidently proclaimed that 23 years later, Afghanistan or Iraq are any better than they were, or that the world is safer now than it was in 2001. Many think that the world is far worse, more polarised, more unequal than ever. The photos on our TV screens this week from Afghanistan of children dying from malnutrition speak volumes about the world that we have created. I have particular connections to Palestine and Israel, and you can imagine that my heart is broken as I watch with continued impotence the ongoing genocide in Gaza and the determination of an extremist Israeli Prime Minister to destroy all hope of a two-state solution. What can religion do to cast light in this darkness? Many people blame religion. I would obviously disagree with that. What religion can and must do is keep repeating the eternal truths of humanity and calling men and women to return to those truths which inspired the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights, proclaimed in 1948. I think that 9/11 is a good day to return to these truths. Article 1 states that all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. They are endowed with reason and conscience and should act towards one another in a spirit of brotherhood. Those of us involved in local politics are at the grassroots of a global family working for the common good. Peace is a fundamental requirement for human beings to share in that common good, and peace begins with me. Peace begins with you. As you gather for another meeting of Council, please remember these truths and let peace begin with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. May I remind members and members of public that the meeting will be streamed live on a webcast from the Council's website and Oldham Community Radio. The Council has a commitment to conduct its full Council business in an environment that is welcoming, secure, and safe for members, employees, and visitors. It is important that meetings are conducted in a safe and fair manner. All persons present at meetings should be treated with courtesy and respect. This includes members of public, elected members, employees, and visitors. Behaviors, language, and actions that impact public safety, cause disruption, or adjournment to the course of business at meetings are not acceptable. Members of the public are therefore asked to note the public meeting protocol, which is also available on Council's website, and elected members are reminded to note the elected member protocol and of the member code of conduct, which provides detail of expected principle of behaviors. I also have to mention that yesterday in our group leaders discussion, I was tasked to enforce these protocols. So I'm requesting all members, when they are in the meeting today, treat each other respectfully, discuss policies, Councillor Woodbine, now, honestly, I'm not telling jokes. I know I can see you're laughing and smirking. That's so disrespectful. Well, I'm just trying to do my job. I'm just trying to do my job, to remind people, to treat people respectfully. And you're just smirking. I can see from here, you know. So I'm just reminding members, again today, please just follow the protocol which is being agreed by your leaders. Treat each other with respect, negotiate, discuss, argue on policies, don't personalize it. I also have a request from a member of public that irrespective of whichever way someone voted or supported or whatever they did, if you represent them, please do respond to them and treat them with the courtesy. I'll move on to the next item of agenda. Apologies. I have received apologies for absence from Councillor Chauvin. There are any other apologies? No. Thank you. Item 2, minutes. Is Council agreed that the Council minutes from the meeting held on 10th July 2024 are approved? Item 3, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest from members in respect of matters to be determined by Council at this meeting? Can members declare any matter to the meetings? No, thank you. Item 4, urgent business. I'm not being notified of any urgent business. Item 5, communications relating to the business of the Council. There is a proposal of the opposition motions section at this meeting, item 12, that the Council procedure rule for the time period to be suspended and replaced by extending the period to 40 minutes with 10 minutes for the Lib Dem motions, 10 minutes for Oldham group motion, 10 minutes for the Conservative group, and 10 minutes for the remaining 2 motions. Please can I ask that Councillor Shah move and Councillor Sykes second this course of action regarding agenda item 12. Is that agreed?
Agreed and moved, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Does Council agree? Can I ask that Council note that this is the last Council meeting for Jared Jones, Managing Director for Children's Services. Jared, are you here? And Paul Entwistle, Director of our Legal Services. May I say thank you on the behalf of all the members and the residents of Oldham for your services. Thank you very much. Arush, did you want to say something?
Yeah, please, Mr. Mayor, if I could. Just on this motion, so before we get started on the business of Council tonight, I did want to pay tribute to Gerard Jones, Oldham Council's Managing Director of Children and Young People, and Paul Entwistle, Oldham's Director of Legal and Democratic Services, as this is the final full council meeting here in Oldham, as you stated earlier. Gerard joined the Council in 2019, and he's helped to oversee a massive transformation of our children's services and led the Council to a good Ofsted review earlier this year. Being the statutory DCS in Oldham over the last 5 years has not been a simple journey, and I'm sure it's not been how Gerard expected when he had joined us. But I know that every leader and cabinet member of Children's Services that's worked with Gerard in his time here have valued his knowledge, his experience, and his determination to keep kids in Oldham safe. Throughout his time here, Gerard has been a fantastic advisor to me personally, not afraid to challenge me back and not scared of being challenged also. From a personal perspective, I look forward to continuing our friendship outside of the Council, and I know I will continue to carry on seeking his advice. Now for Paul. I'm sure Paul and his family will be incredibly relieved that after all these years, so I think 36 in total, he'll finally be able to reclaim his Wednesday nights. That is unless he decides to spend his retirement in the public gallery heckling us, which I could completely understand after all this time here. Paul has given this borough 36 years of service. His contributions over this time cannot be overstated. He has helped ensure our elections run smoothly. He has ensured council and committee meetings run smoothly, which is not always a guarantee here. Paul's experience here is so vast that I imagine there isn't a single legal or constitutional issue he hasn't yet dealt with. But Paul, if there is anything that comes to mind, let us know and we'll do our best to tick it off the list before you go. I just want to place on record as leader, Mr Mayor, my wholehearted thanks to them both as they retire from full-time employment later this month, and to thank them for everything that they've done for us and the people in Oldham. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Sykes.
Mr Mayor, I'd just like to add a few brief words. Firstly, to Gerard, I can remember his interview, and I don't think we described it as an easy challenge. And he came. He promised to do what he said he would do, and has done, in my experience, from what I know of, what he said he would do on the tin, and 99% of the time managed to do it with a smile on his face, which for me is always the achievement in local government. So I'd like to pass on my thanks. He joined in 2019, so relatively speaking, compared to Paul when we get to him, he is a spring chicken. But there we are. So I wish him well in whatever he decides to do, and I'd like to thank you for your service to this borough and to some of its most vulnerable people. The other bit, and I thought what to speak about Paul, Paul arrived on Oldham Council shortly after I did, and I've known him for quite a while. I think I've had the pleasure of interviewing him at least twice, if not 3 times, for various different jobs here, and one in particular I can remember he wasn't successful for, but he stuck at it because he's loyal, and he kept at it, and he's ended up with the job he's got now. And for me, that's a credit for Paul and his family. I'm pretty sure he won't be in the gallery heckling us, because he's not that sad. But, you know, to use a cricket analogy, and anybody who knows Paul knows he was a very good cricketer at one time, he's had a really good innings. But he hasn't been bowled, he hasn't been caught, but he's decided to retire. And that's just exactly the right time. I'd personally like to thank him for the help and advice he's given me personally over the years, and for many members, a lot of who aren't in this chamber now. He's done it with a smile, and we've had our moments, let's not, but we've always been civil, where we've disagreed about things. So without any sort of further ado, an exceptional achievement, 36 years in terms of service to Oldham, and I'll follow the leader. If there's anything you don't think you've done yet, Paul, before you go, I'm sure between us in the next 3 or 4 weeks we can do it. And I think you said something, you hadn't got enough standards cases to deal with yet, so perhaps that's something we could do something about as well. But seriously, Mr Mayor, I'd really like to pass on my thanks to Paul and his long-suffering family. Thank you.
Yeah, that was a challenge put to me by Paul yesterday, saying, can you bring me enough cases till my retirement? Councillor Sheldon?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I've known Paul a lot longer than Gerard, but I wish you both, I can't just see you over there yet, but I wish you both a very long and happy retirement. I trust you're going to retire. I would advise it, because other than my council duties, I've retired. Grateful thanks, especially to Paul, who I've known for longer, for your many years of service to this council. You've obviously seen many changes on this side of the dais there, different leaders, different chief executives, and you've worked diligently and kept each meeting and the rules up to date. So once again, may I wish you both a happy and a healthy retirement. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Paul. I would not ask you who was the best leader and who was the best mayor, but thank you. Thank you for everything you have done, and thank you for all your support, and to you, Gerald, as well. Petitions, there are no petitions for this meeting of the council to consider. Item 7, Leader's Annual Statement. Councillor Shah, Leader of the Council, to address Council. There are no questions or debate on this item.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Good evening, councillors, and most importantly, members of the public here tonight and those listening online. With immense pride, I stand here today as leader of our council, Oldham Council, my hometown, to give my annual update to this council and to our borough. I want today's update to focus on the future we are collectively building for Oldham, the opportunities we have created for a better Oldham for those who live here, and the services we deliver in day out, that genuinely change the lives of the people who we represent. I'm proud of this borough. I'm proud of the people who chose to live and work here, and I'm proud of the contribution we are collectively making to the future of this place and for the future of its people. I want everyone in the borough to share this pride, to harness our ambition for our town and seek out new ways of working together, to cooperate and collaborate on realising those goals. I want everyone to recognise what we are already delivering and the opportunities we have created, and I want residents to have pride in Oldham, and I want everyone to recognise that Oldham's time is now. One significant change we'll look forward to embracing a new relationship is with that of central government. After 14 years of Conservative rule and indifference to local government and the services it provides, we have a fresh opportunity to engage with ministers and secretaries of state to support boroughs like ours. We congratulate the new government on their electoral success and look forward to that new working relationship that better supports Oldham's residents. It will be a tough task. Latest forecasts predict there is a nearly £6 billion black hole in local government finances, which predictably hits boroughs like Oldham with higher needs and lower council tax revenues the hardest. And while no favours will be asked, having the Minister of State for Local Government and the Leader of the House of Commons with constituencies in our borough and the Deputy Prime Minister on the border, it should help to improve Whitehall's understanding of the importance of the services our residents rely on. But while we are hopeful that a new government will be more engaged in helping to address the challenges this council faces, we are also realistic in understanding there is no magic button to reset more than a decade of cuts and underinvestment in our communities. But resetting local government is what we must do. We must reset how we provide services, collaborate and cooperate with other groups and individuals to deliver change, and once more champion that sense of pride in our town, our community and our residents, which I spoke about just a few moments ago. That means being clear about what this administration stands for. So for that reason, we are launching a renewed collaborative Oldham plan. Much has changed, Mr Mayor, since the last one. A global pandemic, rampant inflation and a cost of living crisis. But more hopefully, that change of government and the opportunities it brings for this place and its people. It's therefore the right time to reset our shared plan for the borough, which we will bring here before the council in November. Part of that plan will be to set clear priorities which impact and improve the lives of Oldhamers every day. For me and this administration, this includes looking after our children and older people, finding a local solution to the national housing crisis, and ensuring we get the basics right so the people of Oldham can have pride in Oldham. One of the most important responsibilities any council carries is to protect the most vulnerable in our community. Today, Oldham is experiencing very high demand for its health and social care services. This is particularly prominent in acute care and children's services. Mr Mayor, when the free market model for social care fails, as it did with the collapse of Acorn Lodge, this council stepped up and secured the protection of its 70 residents and the rights of the care staff. Being there to pick up the pieces is important, but we also here are planning for the future and resetting how care for our most vulnerable is delivered. We will also be resetting care for our youngest residents too. As of July this year, this council cares for or supports 4,000 children and young people across Oldham. And I'm so pleased that following our most recent Ofsted inspection, our children's services had been rated good in all areas, an outstanding achievement for everyone involved. I would like to particularly thank Harry Catherall, our Chief Executive, Councillor Shaheen Mushtaq, Cabinet Member for Children's Services, and Gerard Jones, our statutory DCS, and his entire team. But we won't just stop at good. Post-inspection action plans are already underway to drive further improvements over the next 12 years, and we're building new children's homes. We're working to develop new innovative ways of supporting families, and we're investing in family hubs that help provide support and advice to families before they reach crisis point. Now, let's turn to housing, a massive national crisis. We in this chamber are really fortunate. We have roofs over our heads and have a place we can call our home. But for far too many people, they don't know what that is. Because of a lack of investment in good quality homes over the last 14 years, this country has one of the biggest housing crises in its history. The council currently supports more than 600 households living in temporary accommodation. Nearly 6,500 households on the housing register are also waiting for social housing. And unfortunately, Mr. Mayor, last year, only 1,211 homes became available for rent, and that's simply not enough. Every council across the country should be putting housing at the forefront of their minds, and this Labour administration certainly is. We're committed to finding a local solution to this national crisis. Part of this will be about engaging and participating in the reform planning process the new government is driving forward. The other part of this is about the council being bold and doing its part, like our commitment to build 500 new truly affordable homes over the next 5 years. And our commitment is to bring forward sites to accommodate the building of a further 11,000 new homes as part of our local plan and the Greater Manchester Places for Everyone programme. It would also be remiss not to mention our exciting plans for the town centre. As you know, last year we signed our strategic partnership with developer Muse, which will deliver this Labour administration's plan for 2,000 new homes in the town centre. The public consultation has been strong and robust for this, with lots of locals giving their views online and in person. In Broadway Green, Mr. Mayor, we have 138 more homes that will be delivered, in addition to the 332 that we've already built. In Fitton Hill, 365 mixed tenure homes are planned on brownfield land which has been derelict for more than 20 years. And in Durka, planning permission for 132 low and zero carbon houses on brownfield land, which include a mix of affordable rent homes, shared ownership and private sales, have been approved. Now, not only is there a shortage of supply, but in too many cases, the quality of private rental accommodation falls very short of the standards that we should expect. In the last 12 months, the council received more than 800 complaints from Oldham residents about the disrepair of properties. In response, the council declared a housing emergency. Since then, I'm delighted to say that additional housing standard officers have been recruited. They are now helping deliver and enforce compliance and improvements in the private rented sector. Oldham Council is holding landlords to account for the quality of their properties. The council's selective licensing scheme continues to deliver these improvements in the housing stock, and since it began, the scheme has received 672 applications from landlords, 464 licenses have been issued, and 308 condition audits have been completed. We are determined to improve our housing stock over the longer term, and we will continue to hold bad landlords to account and make it easier for residents to report bad practices. Resetting how we care for our most vulnerable residents, building new homes and renewing our town centres are big ticket items that catch headlines, debates and discussions regularly in this chamber. But for many residents, getting the basics right is about improving our day-to-day lives. Are their bins getting emptied? Are potholes getting filled? Are our parks and play areas in good repair? These are the priorities for many Oldham residents, and this administration shares those priorities too. The council collects waste from almost 100,000 residential properties and more than 1,900 businesses throughout the borough, collecting about 3,000 tonnes of general waste and 775 tonnes of recycling waste every month. Cracking down on fly tipping, litter and vandalism are also all priorities that we not only share, but we feel very strongly about. And in Oldham, we are especially proud of our parks and outdoor spaces, as well as creating new green spaces in the town centre as part of the ongoing redevelopment. Play areas including Waterhead Park, Salmon Fields and Royton Park are scheduled to undergo improvements, while new changing rooms, gym equipment and sports courts are taking shape at Clayton Fields, Churchill Plainfields and Dunwood Park, amongst others. The council is also committed to improving the green environment by planting 650 trees across the borough this autumn and winter, and there are plans to add 2.5 hectares of new woodland in the upcoming 12 months. But pride in Oldham is also about making our town a fantastic place to visit, spend leisure time and interact with friends, family and neighbours. Last month, the council and its partners successfully delivered Festival Oldham, which attracted more than 6,000 local residents and visitors. Early this summer, the amazing Tour of Britain women's race saw the world's top female riders go head-to-head, racing in front of a record crowd through the borough's many beautiful spots. And in response to public demand, the council announced its decision to retain the Coliseum Theatre on Fairbottom Street, which will reopen for Panto in 2025. To ensure the future of theatre for Oldham, we have also been working with various cultural groups and partners to co-design and co-create a new future for the building and a new cooperative, more supportive and sustainable future for the art and performance in the whole of Oldham. Having pride in our town also makes us stronger, Mr. Mayor. The positive results of this were seen this summer. While extremists stoked the flames of tension elsewhere, more than 200 businesses, voluntary, community and faith organisations across the borough were invited to attend a community resilience briefing with senior officers from Oldham Council and Greater Manchester Police. These strong and trusted relationships, built over many years, ensured Oldham remained united during these very challenging times. We can also take pride in our town's sporting successes too. The Ruffians winning promotion back to the Championship is a stunning success. We can all celebrate, and I know I and Councillor Dave Arnott and you yourself, Mr Mayor, joined him in their celebration a couple of weeks ago. And thanks to our investment in the pitch at Boundary Park, our team will stay in our town as they move back up the rankings. As well as the Ruffians winning promotion, Oldham Council's Active Through football programme took a team to the Greater Manchester Refugee World Cup. Without losing a game, they won the tournament, beating 16 other teams in that process. Also, working in partnership with Nike, Manchester Football Academy, Oldham Athletic Community Trust and Copster Hill Temple, the council supported a women's only football project, which has been recognised by the US sportswear giant as exemplary and will feature in a video promoting the team and the programme. These examples show the power of sport to bring us all together, to show how we can aspire to be the best and nurture not just pride in our teams, but also pride in our borough. And finally, Mr Mayor, we must reset our ambition for the future of our residents. That means building on the welcomed improvements of Ofsted ratings across our borough's primary schools and secondary schools. Across Oldham, I'm really proud to say that more than 90% of our primary schools and 60% of our secondary schools are now rated good or outstanding. In the last 2 weeks, we welcomed the Children's Commissioner for England, Rachel D'Souza, to Oldham to congratulate the council and its schools on our partnership work to improve school attendance, an issue where we are leading nationally. And our support for women, and our support for the children with special educational needs and disabilities is also improving. With the support from the Department of Education and NHS England, we have been able to recruit new staff to support schools and families across a range of areas, such as early language support, preparation for adulthood, and early access to mediation. With a borough seeing outstanding GCSE and A-level results, we look forward to hosting our second annual Young People's Career event later this month. Work is at the centre of any flourishing economy, and the council continues to reset how it helps residents find work and succeed. Since being launched a decade ago, the Get Oldham work team have helped find work for more than 14,000 of our residents. And as work patterns continue to shift, the council's support for startups and entrepreneurs continues with the opening of the Hive, a dedicated space at the Spindle Shopping Centre supporting social enterprises and start-up businesses. Pride in our town is also about celebrating Oldham's business success stories. Preparations are well underway for the Business Awards this Friday, a night which is sponsored and supported by the council to celebrate the contribution local firms make to the social fabric of our borough, including raising more than £56,000 for local charities. So, Mr Mayor, we are ready to reset how our council works for you. We will reset our priorities in our plan for the borough and our plan for the council to reflect the things that matter most to our residents. We will also reset how we communicate and report our progress with residents to continue building the trust we need to succeed. We will reset our relationship with central government to make sure vital local services are protected and that the new Labour government is supported in its ambition to deliver the true change and improvement for towns like Oldham and the people who live here. Council, I hope you will join me in championing Oldham in every forum, continuing to play an active part in the economic regeneration of our town by offering support, assistance and encouragement to the businesses and employers looking to grow or expand in our borough. And with a renewed pride in Oldham, a set of shared ambitions and a commitment to collaborate, cooperate and face challenges together, we can make a difference. We have so much happening, but we also have so much to look forward to. Mr Mayor, Oldham's time is now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We move on to item 8, Youth Council. I call upon the Youth Council motion to present their motion to Council.
Good evening. My name is Leah Dar and I am the Vice Chair of Oldham Youth Council.
My name is Lucy Richmond and I am the Comms Officer for Oldham Youth Council and Deputy Member of Youth Parliament for Oldham. Thank you for letting us speak here tonight. As we gather here today, we stand before you to discuss a matter of paramount importance to our community, the well-being of our young people. The recent announcement by the UK government to spend £315 million to introduce free breakfast clubs in every primary school is a step in the right direction. However, we believe more can be done to ensure that this investment delivers maximum impact.
The Oldham Youth Council wholeheartedly welcomes any initiative that supports our community. However, we feel in this case that a one-size-fits-all approach may not be the most effective way to address the needs of all children and young people. Many of our young people are facing unprecedented financial hardship, and a blanket policy across primary schools will not reach those who require it most. Over the past few years, we have consistently identified the cost of living as a pressing issue affecting our community. We have worked tirelessly to advocate for policies that improve the lives of young people, such as distributing unused stationery to students in need, calling for the expansion of the HAF programme and working with the UK Youth Parliament to influence government policy to allow children and young people up to the age of 18 to receive free school meals. Now, when speaking to MPs about this last initiative, it very quickly became clear that it would not be possible to give everybody free school meals due to the cost. However, we feel that it's imperative that we address the growing number of children and young people up to the age of 18 who are going hungry during the school day and holiday periods.
Several surveys looking into children and young people's breakfast habits estimated that between 20 and 30% do not eat breakfast before school. We agree that this is a shocking statistic. However, it would suggest that 70 to 80% of them do eat breakfast, and may mean that although primary schools have breakfast clubs, many students will not take up this offer. While the government's plan to provide free breakfast clubs is commendable, we must ensure that this investment is targeted effectively. Just over 2 million children and young people are eligible for free school meals in England, according to the latest government figures. However, a 2024 Food Foundation survey found that there are another 900,000 children living in poverty in England who are missing out on the national eligibility for free school meals due to the strict threshold set by government. We would like to see that the government increases the threshold for free school meals, which would ensure that more children from low-income families can access nutritious food, which is essential for their physical and cognitive development. Additionally, we understand that no decision has been communicated about the continuation of the holiday activity and food programme. This programme has proven invaluable in Oldham, providing meals and activities to young people during the school holidays. I myself work in a place that provides the HAF programme, and I have seen firsthand how much good it can do, supporting children and young people through food insecurity and social isolation, whilst providing educational and wellbeing support. However, not all young people eligible for HAF sessions attend them. To combat this, we believe that the HAF programme should be made universally accessible to all young people, regardless of their eligibility for free school meals. Organisations could still target those on free school meals, but by making it a universal offer, young people could go with friends who are not on free school meals. This would eliminate any stigma associated with participating and encourage more young people to take advantage of this vital service.
By increasing the threshold for free school meals and continuing the HAF programme and making it a universal service, we can ensure that more children and young people in Oldham have the opportunity to thrive, regardless of their socio-economic background. We therefore propose that Council to ask the Chief Executive to write to the Prime Minister, Secretary of State of Health and the Secretary of State for Education, and asking that, rather than a blanket breakfast club for all primary schools, that they look at increasing the threshold for free school meals so that more young people, both primary and secondary age, benefit, that they continue the HAF, Holiday Activities and Food Programme, making sure that young people are fed during the school holidays, and making this a universal service for all young people to reduce the stigma in attending and making it more cost efficient. Thank you.
We have amendment on this motion. I call upon Councillor Mushtaq to move and Councillor Nifty to second the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Lucy and Leah, for bringing this motion, and really well done on your delivery. As always, your motion reflects the current environment, and the ask you bring is sadly needed. And it is sad that we're having our young people come in here requesting that we ask the government to use the money for free breakfast clubs to be used instead for increasing the threshold for free school meals, and to make the Holiday Activity and Food Programme, or HAF programme, universal, so as to continue to provide nutritious meals during holiday periods and to remove the stigma associated with those taking part in the HAF programme. Now, it's not often that we amend a Youth Council motion, but we have decided to do so on this occasion. The amendment, which I'm confident you'll agree with, is fundamentally to put your request to the government and ask for additional funding to make the HAF a universal programme and to increase the threshold whilst continuing to maintain the current breakfast club offer. I do think it's worth mentioning that whilst not every young person eats breakfast, including my own son, there are wider benefits to breakfast clubs, including improved attendance, improved concentration levels, having had positive interaction with adults prior to school, which may not always be the case for some children and young people, and improved educational outcomes. And can I just say how impressed I am at the level of research and nuance you bring to your debate and your motion. It's really impressive. And I would also like to take the opportunity to thank you for your continued good work as a youth council, as expressed in the motion. You list all the motions that you bring. We do appreciate that, and it is needed. We need the voice of yourselves and not just listen to us old fogies. Thank you also to your families and staff here at the council who support you. Thank you very much.
Mr. Nifty.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I rise to second the amendment.
Thank you very much. So, any member wishes to speak? Take it as no. Does Council agree the amendment? All those in favour? Okay. Those against? Okay. Any abstentions? Okay. Amendment carried. So, does any member wish to speak on the original, the amended motion? Take it as no. Does Council agree the motion as amended? Those in favour? Against? Any abstentions? Motion carried. Thank you very much. Item 9, public questions. So we have 15 minutes for this part. The part of the agenda is public questions, where Council will consider all questions submitted in the order received. Once this time limit expires, no further questions will be asked. There is no right of reply to answer given. I will be reading out the questions. If the time limit has expired and a member of the public has submitted a question, the response will be published on the Council website. The first question is from Megan Burchell. The government announced mandatory housing targets after the election. Does this mean we will need to build more homes than PFE said? I call upon Councillor Taylor, Deputy Leader and Cabinet Member for Decent Homes to reply.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you to Megan for her question. The government proposals restore and update the nationally set local housing need calculation in the National Planning Policy Framework. So, based on the mandatory local housing need calculation, the housing requirement for Oldham would increase the average annual housing requirement of 680 homes a year under Places for Everyone to 1,049 new homes per year. That represents a 54% increase. However, it is anticipated that this new requirement would not apply immediately for Oldham, given the recent adoption of Places for Everyone. The National Planning Policy Framework requires local plans, like PFE, to be reviewed every 5 years. But until that 5-year point, a newly adopted plan, like Places for Everyone, is able to be used for planning decisions. Therefore, Oldham will be able to continue with the housing requirement set under PFE until at least 2029. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next question is from Ghazala Rana. I heard Ed Miliband say that Britain will be a clean energy superpower. What does this mean for Oldham? I call upon the Deputy Leader and Cabinet Member for Value for Money and Sustainability, Councillor Jabbar, to respond.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thanks to Ghazala for her question. There are two initiatives on energy which could benefit Oldham, Great British Energy and a local power plant. GB Energy will provide investment into renewable energy projects, and local power plant will provide grants and other supports to local authorities as well as local communities to develop renewable energy projects. So the financial benefit of energy regeneration can be kept in local communities. Oldham is well placed to benefit from this as our existing plans under Oldham's Green New Deal will already bring large-scale private sector investment into low-carbon infrastructure, and our Green New Deal delivery partnership model puts communities at the heart of the energy planning. These new national initiatives will complement and strengthen the approach the Council already has developed, which has already secured over £10 million in grant funding to implement. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. The next question is from Lisa Phillips. I was pleased to see the town centre was busy for the recent festival Oldham. Are there going to be more events like this upcoming to get people in the town spending money with local businesses? A call upon Cabinet Member for Thriving Communities and Culture, Councillor Dean, to reply.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Lisa, for the question. Yes, we have a large planned programme ahead for events because obviously it creates footfall in the town centre and improves our economy substantially. The next event on the 28th of September will be a new event called Nostalgic Oldham. And the great thing about that as well is that we've got great participation from the commercial sector who are actually going to contribute and put events on themselves. We also have a full programme of events taking place over Christmas, and hopefully we'll by that time have launched the Oldham gift card, which hopefully people will use, and that will be a card that will be launched shortly that will give people the opportunity to actually purchase items in Oldham and actually make another boost of the town centre. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Do you get discount on that card? Is that what it is? I'm just curious. That's good. Thank you. Question from Alison Shore. I have heard that Access Oldham had moved into Spindles. What services are offered there? Is it now fully open? I call upon Cabinet Member for Thriving Communities and Culture, Councillor Dean, to reply.
Thank you again, and thank you for Alison for the question. Access Oldham has been moved in and is now called the Customer Service Centre, and it's extremely well received, and it provides enormous help and support to customers. It actually provides advice on benefits, council tax, blue badge, and also supports welfare rights, social inclusion, and actually provides a base for both CAB, Mind, and other organisations that can provide significant help. But most of all, it will provide help and information to literally everybody in the resident of Oldham via our Resident First programme, and hopefully they'll be directed to the right services in a very quick and appropriate time. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Question from Kyle Fidian. Oldham's children are the most important thing the council looks after. How is our Children's Services Department performing? A call upon Cabinet Member for and Young People, Councillor Mishtak, to reply.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Fidian, for the question, and he's right. Ofsted are responsible for the external assurance of local authorities' children's services. We've recently been through a thorough inspection of our performance, making sure we're keeping children safe and improving outcomes. We are delighted that Ofsted has recognised our children's services to be good across all areas and the positive difference our workforce make every day. Post-inspection action plans, as the leader has already highlighted, are underway to enable the service to drive further improvements over the next 12 months. As outlined in the report, which is available online. And Mr. Fidian, if you can hold on until item 10 and my report, I will go into a bit more detail there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next question is from Jason Pape Jones. Can I ask the Cabinet Member for Education how Oldham has done in the year's GCSE and A-level results? I call upon Councillor Mohan Ali, Cabinet Member for Education and Skills, to reply.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you to Jason Pape Jones for his question. I want to praise the resilience of our students and pupils in overcoming the challenges of the COVID pandemic to achieve excellent grades this year. On GCSE Results Day, Councillor Nashin and I visited 10 schools to congratulate pupils and staff. The unvalidated results for GCSEs show that most schools in Oldham improved their outcomes since 2019. and this improved the borough attainment. At the same time, the number of strong passes at grades 9 to 5 in English and maths has also increased. It's a testament to the hard work of our young people that since the pandemic, our GCSE outcomes have improved at a better rate than the national and is now moving closer to the average. I was also pleased to visit Oldham Sixth Form College and Oldham College to celebrate the achievements of our young residents receiving A-levels, T-level and B.Tech grades. Unvalidated A-level results show that A to E grade passes were higher than last year, higher than the national average, and are back in line with the pre-pandemic results. The A to C pass rate showed a significant improvement on the 2023 figure, and this narrowed the gap to national average. I firmly believe these academic successes are rooted in the excellent work that the Council and the Trust, academies, schools and colleges have done to increase attendance rates, raising aspiration and continue to further improve the quality of teaching and learning since the pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next question is from Imran Ghaffar. As a seasoned cyclist who rides 60 miles a week to work, I want to commend the Council for its efforts to encourage more people to cycle. It's great to see initiatives that promote healthier, more sustainable transport options. However, I do have concerns regarding the placement of the new cycle lane on one of the biggest hills in Oldham, as this may deter rather than encourage new cyclists, while experienced riders may manage. I imagine many would find this challenging. Additionally, I would be interested to know how many current councillors have cycled up this hill, and more broadly, how many of the 60 councillors cycle to work or council meetings as public figures leading this initiative. It would be great to see councillors setting an example. I was certainly used to know one leader who used to cycle to work. Not sure about others. Councillor Shah, do you want to respond?
I do, Mr. Mayor. I want to thank the Council, because I'm really grateful for Mr. Gaffar's positive feedback and our promotion in particular for a healthier and more sustainable transport options. But it's something we think needs to be at the heart of placemaking across Oldham. Mr. Gaffar does raise a really good point about the challenge of cycling in Oldham. As we all know, we do have more hills than many other towns and cities, but that shouldn't stop us from creating the safe and pleasant environment for people to walk and cycle as part of their daily journeys if they're able to do so. Hopefully, Mr. Mayor, by creating these spaces, more people will walk and more people will cycle, and they'll develop those healthier habits that mean their fitness grows and they can manage to cycle up the steeper routes as well. In addition, the increased availability of e-bikes may help residents tackle Oldham's more challenging hills. As for councillors, I don't think we have any specific statistics, thank God, not at this point, about how many do cycle or walk to work or carry out their council duties. But I know that a number do walk or cycle where the opportunity allows them to do so. And so creating these fantastic new routes can only encourage that amongst the councillors who are, again, most importantly, able to do so. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Can I just say thank you again to Imran Ghaffar. I think it's a very good question which probably expands on the wider range of healthy options we can choose or should choose. The next item is reports of leader and cabinet members. So leaders and building a better Oldham portfolio. So Councillor Shah, you have 4 minutes to speak and 6 minutes to answer the questions.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As we gather for this council meeting, I'm excited to share the progress and future plans in building a better Oldham portfolio. Our mission remains the same. This council, under my leadership, seeks to instill pride in Oldham by ensuring clean streets, good schools, safe neighbourhoods and vibrant high streets. Oldham has a really rich history, once at the heart of Lancashire's Cottonopolis, attracting people seeking new opportunities. Today, our goal is to make Oldham a place where people feel proud to live, work and visit. This pride starts with getting the basics right and extends to making Oldham an exciting place for investment, providing attractive and affordable homes and creating new opportunities for work, education and for training. Work is underway to establish a new collaborative ambition for the future of the Oldham Partnership. Since the adoption of the current Oldham Plan, much has changed and it's time to realign our ambitions. We aim to bring forward a new Oldham Plan for formal ratification at full council in November. I'm pleased to confirm to the Chamber that the Eton Star Oldham Sixth Form College will be built on the current Tommyfield Outdoor Market site. This sixth form will provide first-class education opportunities, particularly for young people who have had fewer opportunities in life, and the college is set to open in September 2027. Public consultation on our plans for 2,000 brand new homes in the town centre has been ongoing and it does close tonight. We have received valuable feedback which will inform refinements to the programme and ensure community voices are heard in shaping how plans for the town centre housing will develop. This autumn, the Egyptian rooms will reopen to the public as a brand new food hall for the town centre. There'll be a range of street food style vendors making their home in the Victorian venue, including but not limited to Ply Love Pizza, The Last Stop and Wings of Power. We worked hard to secure a regionally renowned operator like the Northern Lights Group to run the Egyptian room themselves. I had the opportunity to visit the site with Joel Foster, who is their managing director, a few weeks ago, and I'm genuinely so excited for it to open in the not so different future. The first phase of our new town centre park opened in August. The site, located on the former Sports Centre car park on the corner of Rock Street and St Mary's Way, provides a fantastic new accessible route into the town centre. With community feedback helping to shape future phases, we look forward to sharing updated plans soon. Elsewhere in the borough, I'm also extremely delighted to update you on the this week's reopening of Royton Town Hall. There has been a lot of painstakingly hard work to restore the Town Hall to its former glory thanks to the investment from this administration, including some genuinely state-of-the-art craftsmanship to recreate the original finishes. As of Monday, 16th of September, residents will be able to access the newly renovated Royton Town Hall and Library, and a whole host of council and partner services will be hosted there for residents to access in their communities. I'm also delighted to update you on the latest School Street, which opened on the 4th of September, and addressing congestion and road safety issues at Haywood with Zion and St Edward's RC Primary Schools. This is the first school street using ANPR cameras to enforce road closures during school drop-off and pick-up times. We've also been engaged with our communities to improve improvements to St Mary's Way, following concerns about road safety and accessibility. Emerging proposals including new traffic lanes, a tree-lined road, safer cross points funded by the Council Cities Region Sustainable Transport Settlement. Following on from the success of our summer events programme, a new event, which Councillor Dean mentioned before, which is Nostalgic Oldham, will take place on the 28th of September, offering a look back at music, entertainment, toys, games and fashions. Visitors will be able to share their childhood memories and enjoy a walk down memory lane. This year, there will be a different approach to how we celebrate Guy Fawkes Night on November the 5th. There will be a new family-focused event with street performances, activities for families that culminate in a firework display. The shift away from Oldham Edge and directly into the town centre. Thank you.
4 minutes are over. Councillor Sykes, you have 2 questions.
Might just have one, Mr. Mayor, you never know. But
it's impossible.
Nothing's impossible. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Since the general election, we've had a welcome change in government, but there's been little to cheer about for the people of this borough. Oldham now has a Labour government in London, a Labour mayor in Greater Manchester and a Labour administration in Oldham Borough, supported by some called independents. There's nowhere left to hide and no one left to blame. The new Prime Minister has said there will be painful times ahead. The question is, can Oldham Labour stand up to him? Are they in our corner, that's the people's corner of this borough, or not? We want to see an end to the 2-child cap on universal credit. We need to know that pensioners in Oldham will be warm this winter and that government will stop the poorly thought through cut to winter fuel payments. Local government needs a real cash injection now and a long-term funding reform. So instead of circling the financial drain, the council can fund the services our residents need and deserve. For years, I've sat here, listened to Oldham Labour telling us it's Oldham first, politics second, and challenging the government. It's time to practice what you preach now. If our 3 Labour MPs are truly in Oldham's corner, they will support calls for the end of a 2-child cap, for proper local government funding reform and a continuation of winter fuel payments. So will the leader agree to write to Oldham's MPs, urging them to pledge support for these causes in Parliament on behalf of the people of Oldham Borough, who desperately need the government to fight their corner? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Shell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'd like to thank the leader of the main opposition for his question. I think, as you rightly claim, you've been stood here in this chamber for a very, very long time. We've never denied the previous government and the absolute brutality of the cuts that they imposed on not just this council, but councils across the country. We found a £6 billion hole, like I mentioned in my annual statement, and I don't think it's new news to say that the new government have only been in power for 2 months. What they have demonstrated is their desire, their commitment to make sure that local government is at the heart of every decision they make. It is going to be difficult, and difficult decisions aren't made easily, but that's what responsible governments do. They don't duck, they don't dive, they don't hide. But I should also like to remind the leader of the main opposition that when they were in coalition with the Conservative government, they were part of that government who inflicted cuts on local councils across the country. It's early days, we have determination, we will always put our people before politics of any colour, and that will be something that we'll be able to demonstrate over the next couple of months. But I think giving them 2 months in to do the things, to do the due diligence, to be robust is the right thing to do, and we will continue to support and fight for our residents in that point. I won't be writing to the MPs at this stage. I will be giving them a chance to do what they need to do best, and that's to protect every single person across this country and the most vulnerable in our society the most. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Sykes, do you have second question?
Want to let you down, Mr. Mayor, would I?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What I'd like to ask my second question is who really benefits from Eton College in Oldham? The leader has expressed her enthusiasm for the Eton Star Oldham project on many occasions and did so again in her report on tonight's agenda. The decision to develop a 480 student selected sixth form in partnership with Eton College has been torn to shreds by the National Education Union. They have pointed out the disruption this will likely cause to the current sixth form provision in our borough, which already delivers a first-class post-16 offer. There are also concerns that a selective offer will do nothing for the most disadvantaged young people in Oldham Borough and will only help a very small number of young people who are already relatively achieving at a high level. Last year's Year 12 cohort saw an increase of nearly 300 young people, and the numbers are expected to continue to rise until at least 2028. In Oldham, there's a gap in our post-16 offer, but we know that gap is due to the lack of entry-level study programmes. Back in March, the Children's Scrutiny Committee was told that the Eton Star Oldham would not replace training provision that had been lost in this borough over recent years, and therefore it does not enable us to bridge that gap. So if Eton Star is not going to provide the courses our young people need, what's the leader's plan to bridge this very real and growing gap? How is she working with our schools and Oldham College to ensure the right courses are on offer? Have other external providers been approached to help, and if so, who, how many and for what courses? And can the leader explain to the council why she thinks the Eton Star Oldham is necessary and how it will help solve these problems? Never mind being offered one of the borough's prime development sites for its activities. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I often find it very challenging to find and try to siphon out what the actual question is in the leader of the main opposition speech that he uses every full council meeting. The new Eton College's ethos is solely educational excellence, but also about social mobility, and it will include an admissions process that prioritises those that will benefit the most, including those on free school meals and children in care. That is something that I've rehearsed over and over and over, and actually at every point that we've mentioned Eton College coming to Oldham. It's not for everyone, and there is a very real choice of quality options for everyone. But I will also say, again, it wasn't about putting politics before our people. It was about providing opportunities for our young people. This doesn't take anything away from our current provision. It complements that, and I'm really proud of this project, and I can't wait to see it come to fruition in September 2027. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I have 1 minute in this section, so Councillor Sheldon, do you want to ask a question?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I thought it was Cameron Gafford before myself, but it's up to
Sorry,
you.
apologies. It was Cameron Gafford. Apologies.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Sheldon. Councillor Shah, the job of a council is to represent the people that have elected them and to make sure their concerns are raised at the right places. Unfortunately for myself and my group, we are unable to do our positions as councillors justice due to officers not being forthcoming in various areas of concern. So specifically, that of the Old Pakistani Community Centre, which you call the Marlborough Centre, in the guise of a conflict of interest with myself. Well, let me make it clear right here, right now, I have no personal interest in the community centre and nor do my group. Therefore, I would like to raise my issue here directly with yourself and the officers present. I would like to express the concerns of the community regarding the closure of the Pakistani Community Centre. The centre has been a crucial resource for many years and the community is desperate to see it reopen and restored to its original purpose. The centre plays a vital role in fostering community engagement and providing essential services. And we would like to see it return to the hands of a capable community group to continue serving our local population. Furthermore, I would appreciate clarification regarding the tendering process for this centre. There are concerns about the transparency and fairness of this process, particularly as members of the Oldham Group have reported difficulties in obtaining any information from your officers. It is essential that the tendering for the operation of the centre be open, fair and transparent, allowing all eligible groups to participate without unnecessary barriers. Can you assure this council that you will be able to bring a cross-party panel to decide the future of this community asset that should remain within the community and it not be for friends or members or families or members of any political parties or for private enterprise? And can you also state that you personally do not have a conflict of interest? And
In 30 seconds, any tendering process, again, I really resent having to highlight the inexperience of the Oldham Group, is completely independent. No elected member has anything to do with any procurement process. It's a community centre. It's in my portfolio. There is a clear conflict with Councillor Gafford continuously barraging officers, asking for questions. It's a transparent and open process, and it will be undertaken like any other tendering process. And it was left.
Not very respectful, Mr. Mayor, as you said initially.
It was closed.
You were going to call people. She's attacking me personally and the Oldham Group personally. It's not really.
Sorry, just one second,
it's quite patronising that yes, people are asking us questions and we have to mither the officers and the officers are not responding.
Councillor Gafford, which part of the Councillor Shah's point you're objecting to personal?
We're inexperienced and we're obviously not inexperienced and we're asking the right questions and that's why it's affecting.
No, sorry, that's not personal. That's our view about the group. Sorry. Can't finish this up. No, that's our view about the group. Sorry.
Point of clarification. I was just accused by Cameron Gafford for having a conflict of interest. He asked me to clarify it. I have none, so I think that does demonstrate inexperience when you don't know what you're asking in a question. Secondly, ward members. He has a member of his group that is a colleague of mine in St Mary's. All ward members have been briefed about this, but obviously there's no clear reason and indication to why Councillor Gafford continues to ask about this. I have no direct involvement in the tendering or the procurement of this, but the reality is, Mr Mayor, sorry, I'm sat down. The reality is it was left in a bad state. It's going to take a long time, and the officers are going through a procurement process, and I don't think it's appropriate for Councillor Gafford to ask for weekly and momentarily updates at every given occasion.
Point of clarification, if possible, Mr Mayor.
Can you please provide the response in writing, providing the clear reassurance if that's possible?
In terms of my conflict?
Yeah. Because
not just a conflict, will it be an open and transparent?
It is an open, transparent.
Well, it's obviously not going to be. And also, just a point of clarification. Sorry, Mr. Mayor, the councillor, which Councillor Shah said, she said that she's got no information at all about the centre.
May I suggest you pick it up outside this meeting? If you don't get the response, then you.
This is the problem,
you see, Mr. Mayor. This is the problem, Mr. Mayor. I'm not getting, and we are not getting any information from anyone at all, even though we've asked for it several times.
I'll request Chief Executive to look into that. They will send an email to all members of the council.
Please, if you don't mind. Yeah,
We'll
thank
move
you.
on to the next item, which is question, invite cabinet member to present the report. You have maximum 4 minutes and 6 minutes for non-executive question.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor. Is it me next?
We ran out of the time. It was 6 minute timed, and you said you wanted Councillor Gafoor to go first. So we are out of the time in the section.
I fail to see why we're out of time when the Youth Council should have been 20 minutes and they actually took, with the amendment, 10 minutes. I think it's only right. I've never been refused a question. I find this most disappointing.
I think this is the agenda set by group leaders, that 4 minutes and 6 minutes, not by me.
Certainly
not.
A point of order.
It's not set by me.
This section, on section 10, which is the section we're on now, has a time limit of 90 minutes, and it doesn't specify in the agenda that the section...
Oh, we just take a seat. I'll ask Paul and Whistle to explain.
So for the council procedure rules, which are agreed by council, say in this section, okay, there's a maximum 90 minutes in total, but in each section it's 10 minutes per section, with 4 minutes for the leader or cabinet member to present their report, and 6 minutes for questions from non-executive members, and that's contained in the council procedure rules.
Thank you very much. Move on to Councillor Taylor, Deputy Leader, and Decent Homes Portfolio.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I don't want to drag it out just as a point of order or clarification, and I'm not sure which it is. And I'm happy to stand up if you like. I think the confusion is the leaders' questions used to come before this section of business, and in this meeting we've suddenly amalgamated them, which has actually reduced the time. So we used to have leaders' questions, and then this new section we've got for 90 minutes used to come after it. And we appear to have done leaders' questions, because previously Councillor Shah got an extension because she's effectively got two portfolios, a leaders one and the combined authority one, and then we had the 90 minutes. And for some reason, tonight we seem to be doing them all together. Have I misunderstood, or have I missed the change to the Constitution, or are we doing it different?
Let Paul explain it.
Mr. Mayor,
respect, Councillor. Sorry, so to just explain the procedure. The council procedure rules as regards this aspect was changed in September 23 to say that it was going to be 90 minutes questions, and essentially each section 10 minutes, as referred to earlier. Now, I think where the confusion may be is that a few meetings ago, the leader graciously said that she was going to extend the period from 10 minutes to 20 minutes, but the council procedure rules say 10 minutes for the leader question time.
Mr. Mayor,
I do need to, sorry, Councillor Sheldon, I do need to move on.
Can I just ask a request of the leader to extend this for my question, which is 2 minutes long, and that's all I'm asking.
No problem, Councillor Sheldon, because you've asked.
Is Council happy to extend that? Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It might be just a bit more than 2 minutes.
So guard of watch here.
I'm aware that of low morale and feeling of separation and isolation of some members of the opposition. The current atmosphere between some members, officers and staff is the lowest I have known during my many years at this council. The reasons are the restricted access to the parts of the building to some opposition members, which I believe is rather petty and unnecessary. The delay or lack of reply to opposition members' questions and suggestions, and the general feeling that opposition members are not part of this council team, and this by example was made quite clear when the vice chair positions were rearranged recently. The good news story for residents and this town was to shift funds to enable the Coliseum to be brought back to life. This was first raised by myself, followed by the Liberal Democrats. The celebration party could have been an all-member occasion and would have given all members the chance to be part of some good news for this town. This was not the case. It is evident that some opposition group leaders are being asked to speak to their groups and ask them to toe the line, be kind, and not to criticise any member, officer or staff. This when many feel backed up into a corner. I would like to ask the leader to take on board these concerns and to reconsider some of the recent decisions to enable all members the same access to areas of council buildings, to ask all members, officers and staff to share information and work with all members equally, and to dismiss the them and us situation by including all members as part of this council team. Councillor Shah, I believe you alone can bring out the changes which we would all like to see to improve the atmosphere and the working relationship at this council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sheldon. Councillor Shah, very briefly.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, I'll try to be as brief as I can, but I have to start off by saying that there was no one that felt more shameful than having to introduce the changes that we had to make than I did myself. It's not something that I did lightly, it's not something that I enjoyed, and it's not something that I think is appropriate. However, I think Councillor Lewis-Quick wants to respond on my behalf.
Carry on, Councillor Sheldon.
No, I will provide a written response, because if Councillor Sheldon, I just graciously allocated him time to ask for a question, because I know he's a respectful, decent person, but if he's not going to ask members of his group to be respectful whilst I'm trying to respond to his own leader's question, then what I'll do is I'll provide a written response. But maybe if there wasn't covert recordings in the corridor and people treated officers with respect, we would have never been in this position. I've always been one to talk about consensus politics, to talk about respect. I was a council leader that brought every single opposition member into my office and said that our residents deserve more than what we are displaying in the chamber right now. I was the one who did the policy around policies, not personalities. None of that has been reciprocated by any opposition leader. I've not even had the courtesy, apart from the independent groups, to apologise for what had happened before the AGM, Mr. Mayor. So I think there's some goal for people to stand here and try to say that this has been done to be malicious or petty. Treat each other with respect. I always treat members of this chamber with respect, inside this chamber and outside of this chamber, and so does every member of my group, and I'm so proud to say that. I'm happy, Councillor Sheldon, to work with you and other leaders of the opposition, but you do have to explain respect and conduct that we have to hold to the highest standards in this chamber and outside of it. And heckling continuously every time I speak doesn't do that and doesn't display that. So if you want respect from me, I will always give it back to you, but do speak to your members about how they should conduct themselves.
Thank you very much, Councillor Sheldon. Right, Councillor Taylor, Deputy Leader and Decent Home Portfolio. If you can be brief, that will be helpful. Thank you. Well, technically, yes, of course.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I am pleased to report the Housing Options Office opened over summer and the new space is working well. The Housing Options Service operates from the Crompton Suite between the hours of 9 AM and 5 PM Monday to Friday. But if a resident needs emergency accommodation outside of these times, we have an out-of-hours telephone service where advice, support and assistance is offered. Residents can come into Housing Options to access public PCs and a free telephone. They can use the PCs to register on the Council's Housing Register, make changes to their application and bid for available properties through the Council's website. We have a front-of-house customer service team to meet and greet our residents and field any enquiries, and they are available to offer assistance with the computer service. Residents can also have appointments with their designated officers, whether that is homelessness prevention, temporary accommodation or housing register officers, as and when they require. Take-up of this essential service is increasing and there is significant demand because this is proving to be a lifeline to many of our residents. So many families across Oldham are facing financial challenges as a result of the ongoing cost of living crisis, and housing is a massive factor in this due to increasing rents and mortgages and a decade of insufficient social house building. Consequently, we don't have enough truly affordable homes in Oldham to meet the changing needs of people's circumstances. This shortage of housing has prompted spiralling rents and, as such, overcrowding, evictions, rent arrears and homelessness are all on the rise. As a leader has already pointed out, we currently have almost 7,000 people on the housing register, with many more applying to get onto it, so that number is only increasing. We also have over 650 households living in temporary accommodation due to the lack of affordable properties, and this sadly includes 500 children. We are doing all that we can to prioritise moving as many families who have been placed outside of the borough back into Oldham to ensure this does not impact school attendance. We do understand the human cost is just as important as the financial cost, and that is why, despite the financial challenges that this council faces, as an administration we are continuing to spend more money on this service. We have invested over £1 million of revenue funding to deliver the new improved front door service, which I talked about just a minute ago, and we will facilitate a tour for all members so that you can see firsthand just how the service operates. A new housing system to improve the efficiency of our housing register, investments in a new data dashboard so we can track and present performance, investments in staffing structures to help support residents more effectively and to help reduce wait times, plus a new out-of-hours emergency homeless support service that supports residents when they might need us the most. But the bottom line is that we still need more homes. So in addition to our commitment to build 500 new social homes over the next 5 years, we have also realigned our capital programme to support a £10 million investment in bringing in new properties to accelerate housing delivery. All of this comes at a time when many councils are removing their front door service. But while demand remains as high as it is, we will continue to support our residents who are most in need and invest in our resident-first approach. On a final note, I would just like to echo the leader's comments regarding the public consultation on proposals for the 2,000 new homes in the town centre, which closed today. I am delighted that so many people participated in this process, and the team will be collating all of that feedback so that the contributions from local people will influence and shape the final design and development proposals going forward. Happy to take any questions or that or any of the panel.
Perfect timing, thank you. I have Councillor Williamson notified in advance. You don't have to ask if it's... Okay, I'll take Councillor Lancaster in the meanwhile.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Local authorities have statutory planning enforcement powers to be used in the public interest to ensure that development is conducted legally and does not cause damage to communities. However, in recent weeks, the Oldham Council Planning Enforcement team has reduced to just one officer for the whole borough, and I've been warned by an outgoing member of staff that reported breaches of condition will now not be prioritised. Does Oldham Council have a robust, responsible approach to planning enforcement? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. May I request you, if you could keep your answers brief, I might be able to take a few more questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr Mayor. So, yeah, of course, effective planning enforcement is important in terms of tackling breaches of control and maintaining the integrity of decision-making. Just to provide some brief stats, so far in 2024, the Council has received just over 300 reported cases of alleged breaches of planning controls. And where a breach of planning control has been reported, we obviously will review those circumstances on a case-by-case basis to determine what action is appropriate and proportionate. Councillor Lancaster is correct that one of our planning enforcement officers has now left the council. As I'm sure every member of this chamber is aware, we are going through the budget proposals for next year, and at the moment there is a freeze on staff. That is no secret to anybody here, so I'm not really sure why he doesn't understand that we're not replacing that person. But essentially, yes, we do have a robust process, and we're confident that we will continue to do so.
Councillor Estridge.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Can the Cabinet Member for Decent Homes confirm that if we were to pull out of the PFE now, that all green belt in the borough would be subject to a developer's free-for-all, because they'd lose the protections guaranteed within PFE? So greenbelt sites that have been removed from the plan as potential development land over the years could come forward for development, and we as a council would not be able to do much about it.
Taylor.
Yep, thank you, Councillor Rustage, for your question. Obviously, I can understand why, as a representative from Failsworth, this is a matter that you would want clarity on. And I know that planning responses can often be quite technical, but the truth of the matter is, without places for everyone, we would be required to meet the nationally set local housing need requirement for Oldham in full straight away. The due diligence work that we have already carried out supports the position that we have laid out at previous council meetings, which is that we do not have enough housing land supply without Greenbelt release to meet that housing requirement. So the council would immediately be in a difficult position when it comes to deciding applications for housing development in the borough. In planning speak, our housing land supply would be so poor in this context that the presumption in favour of sustainable development in the National Planning Policy Framework would kick in, meaning that we should grant permission for any sustainable housing development, even potentially those in the Greenbelt. And if we didn't, we would almost certainly lose any appeal related to those planning applications and have significant costs awarded against us. Put simply, the risk of unplanned, ad hoc housing development taking place across the borough, including in the Greenbelt, is infinitely greater without places for everyone. So this would cause greater harm to our borough's environment than the planned release of land for development in the Places for Everyone plan.
Thank you very much. I got a chance for one more question. Councillor Williamson.
To save time, I'm happy for a written response instead of reading it out. All right.
Are you happy to provide written response, or do you want to answer?
Yes, of course.
Thank you very much. Move on to Councillor Jabbar, Deputy Leader and Value for Money and Sustainability Portfolio.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll try to be brief so people can have their questions answered. I obviously provided a detailed report. If I can start with the budget situation first. Clearly, we're in a very challenging situation and we're dealing with it head-on. The issue is adult social care, children's services and temporary accommodation, as Leader mentioned in her speech. Incidentally, it's not an Oldham problem alone. It's a problem facing any local authorities who have those responsibility. And the real issue here is this, Mr. Mayor, that over the last number of years, LGA, other people like Sigoma have repeatedly said that there isn't enough money to provide the services in these areas because of the growing demand, but also the cost of placement. And the previous government has done nothing at all to address this issue. So right now, there's £6.2 billion of gap over the next 2 years in the local government sector. And I really do hope that the incoming new government will actually try to address those, and they'll try to bring a fair funding formula which will enable us to provide the services that our people need desperately. But, Mr. Mayor, I'm really disappointed that some people in this room, in this chamber, don't understand local government finance, don't try to ask people what's going on, but then make comments which can actually damage our reputation. Things like saying, oh, have we gone to the government asking for money because we're going to be bankrupt? I mean, an outrageous claim to make. It will damage our reputation. It will put off investors. You shouldn't do things like that because you've been elected to serve this council. The residents have been giving you the confidence to come here to fight for them. And it's outrageous to do things like that, what is factually totally inaccurate. So I'm pleased to say, Mr. Mayor, that the measures that we've undertaken has reduced the projected overspend from 26 to just over 21 million. And I'm confident over the years that number will come down. I'm going to touch on some things on the key aspect of my portfolio. Digital is in my portfolio. We're doing some really innovative work to actually digitalize the services that we provide, and hopefully it will make our services better for the residents. So, for example, we've got an initiative called GovTech, which is actually digitalizing all the back office services. So when you contact the council for council tax, all the stuff that you do for a direct debit, for a single person discount, moving homes, all those things are now being completely digitalized. And I hope that will lead to a service improvement as well as an efficiency in providing those service operating costs. Also, Mr. Mayor, I'm delighted to say that Alexandra Park Depot will be completed by the end of this month, and it will be operational in October. A state-of-the-art project, and I hope that members will have the opportunity to go and visit that. In terms of electric vehicle charging infrastructure, Mr. Mayor, we're piloting this in here, and at the moment we're actually in the process of recruiting a consultant to develop a strategy for it. Again, one of the leading things that we're doing in GM. You'll be aware that we're doing a low carbon district heating. We managed to secure £8.7 million from government to do this. It will be a great project for Oldham. Total, it will cost £27 million. At the moment, we're recruiting the technical consultant to help us to deliver the next stage of the feasibility study, which is REBA Stage 3.
You have 10 seconds left.
With that, Mr. Mayor, I'm happy to take the questions.
I thought you said you're going to be brief.
That is brief.
Councillor Hamdani.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the council has announced an expected overspend of 21 million to amend that, as you've said, and has asked staff to consider voluntary redundancies. This has largely been attributed to rising demand for social care and to homelessness. So can I ask why the council was unable to forecast that rising demand for social care and homelessness? Both have seen increases over the past few years, and that's left the council massively overspent and in significant financial distress. Thank you.
Councillor Jabbar.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you to Councillor Al-Hamdani for this question. I have a long answer which I can provide in writing, but just quite simply, it isn't just an issue of rising demand, which is always difficult to predict, but also a rapid increase in prices driven by the external market. Families are complex, and a lot of things can drive them to need support or drive them to a crisis, which means we need to intervene. Over the last 3 years, you will be aware that the council has actually invested in total £52 million into adults and children's services to try to tackle these increasing demand. But while private sector is making millions of pounds from placement, the council budget have been starved over the last 14 years of funds that they need to build in-house provision, which have limited ability to stem these cost increases. We're not alone in this, Sam, you know this. This is a problem, this is nationwide, but we're doing everything we can to address this. The local housing issue already been touched on by my colleague there. You know, it's a national crisis, and there are many factors which influence that, including mortgage rate, the decision on number of homes that have been built, and so on. And it's very, very difficult to predict. You can predict it, but it's very, very difficult to actually exactly predict what's going to happen, because the volatile is a very volatile situation.
Sorry, very volatile situation. You are very, very popular cabinet member, so I got a list of people who want to ask you questions.
So the point I'm trying to make, Mr. Mayor, is right. It's extremely difficult because there are so many factors that actually play into all these services. And the point I made earlier, and the leader made, is that local government finance is not properly giving us the money that we need to provide these vital services. That's the key point. Thank you.
I know the number of people have indicated they want to ask a question, and I'm trying to politically balance it out to make sure that everyone gets a fair chance. So I'll have Councillor Sajid and then Councillor Shuaib Akhtar.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As a result of 40 years of Tory government, local councils like Oldham have faced significant cuts in funding with their budgets slashed. This has resulted in devastating reduction in vital services from social care to housing, education and youth services, services which are vital for our residents. Public services that used to be a safety net for the most vulnerable are now stretched at breaking point, and it's not just Oldham. Across the country, communities are bearing the brunt of these cuts, with some councils on the brink of bankruptcy. I urge the Deputy Leader to confirm how much funding has been lost from the decisions of the previous Conservative government, and how hopeful is he that the spending review will bring better news.
Thanks, Councillor Hussain, for the question. Look, Mr. Mayor, we all know, right, this is a real issue. Places like Oldham have actually faced a real difficulties of losing large amount of money from our core budget. And we've lost over £200 million over that time period. And the next bit I'm about to say, please take this seriously. And for a moment, just consider these figures I'm about to give you. So during this period, our spending power has increased by 15.5%. 15.5%. On average, the councils across England, their spending power has increased by 26.9%. Right? If that average increase was applied to Oldham, we would be getting £26.3 million each year alone. Just think how unfair this funding system is. And, you know, we talked about it, the government has talked about it, the government actually said they were going to bring a fair funding formula into play. And when they looked into it, and when they did a pilot run on it, they realized some of their own Tory authorities, the leafy Cheshire authorities, will actually lose out, and that's why they shelved it. And that's a fact. These numbers are absolutely correct. So you're absolutely right. The reason why we're in this financial difficulties is because systematically they have taken the funding they used to give us, and that's why we're in this position. So I'm hoping, Councillor Hussain, that when we've got this new government in, 2 months into a new government, we've already had discussion with key people, including the local government minister, and I've been assured that they will give us multi-year settlement, both for revenue and for capital, and they will look at bringing a fair formula to give funding to council to provide key services. Thank you for your question.
Councillor Akhtar.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Jabbar, I mean, we're not going to ask you a question about the budget. I mean, it's great to hear that council services are being digitalised, and hopefully citizens will be able to access those services digitally and reduce the demand on the contact centre and other services. Could you please inform the council what progress has been made to ensure that Oldham residents have got the right type of skills and resources to access these services digitally?
That's a very good question. You know, we want people to access services online. That's convenient for people. It's convenient for us. It's convenient in the sense that you can access a service anytime. You don't need to wait for 9 to 5. You can do it anytime. But here's the thing. Anybody who can't access the service, we're happy to support them, and we do that all the time. And I think the question you're raising is a good one, that what kind of training that we need to provide. So that's fine, and I think, you know, housing association, community organisation and educational establishment, we need to work with them to support residents where they can be trained to use online services if they need some support. And I'm happy to explore that. We already do that, but I'm happy to look at that. And I know
Thank you very much, Councillor Jabbar. I know there are a number of other councillors have indicated they wanted to ask questions. Please do put your questions in writing to relevant cabinet member, and you will get written response. And if you don't get, please do let us know, and we will make sure that you get response. Thank you.
There are a couple of more questions there. I'll provide written answer to them.
I've just tried, I know the people have indicated, but I've just tried to politically balance it out to make sure that wider chamber gets the opportunity. Councillor Mushtaq, Children and Young People's Portfolio. I'm sure you're going to be very, very brief.
Always am, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. You can see the scale and scope of the work that's ongoing in the Children and Young People portfolio from the report. You can also see the outcome of the Ofsted inspection, to which I'll return shortly. The demand continues to be high, with staff and partners continuing to deal with that demand extremely well. The main issues around permanence planning and staffing continue to progress in a positive trajectory. Of the 611 children in care, 309 are in internal fostering placements, the highest number in recent years, with 9 adoption orders having been granted since April 2024. Whilst a lot of work goes into prevention, sadly, there will always be children in care. It's imperative that we try to provide them with stable placements so they progress and realise their true potential. Mr. Mayor, it's important to highlight the great work of this administration and the Children's Services team, led by Gerard Jones and supported by Councillor Arooj Shah and the Chief Exec, Harry Cathro. That led to the Ofsted inspection recognising that Oldham Council is providing a good service for our most vulnerable children and families. I'd like to share with you some of what the inspection entailed. This was a 3-week inspection with a team of 8 inspectors. They looked at 122 data lists and documents as part of the initial off-site work. 130 additional requests for evidence and case file documents throughout the 2 weeks on site. Whilst on site, they looked at the front door, which included the multi-agency safeguarding hub and emergency duty team, thresholds, which involves safeguarding decision-making, early help, response to domestic abuse and neglect, child in need and child protection, children with disabilities, children at risk of exploitation, pre-proceedings and court proceedings, 16 to 17-year-olds presenting as homeless, young carers, private fostering, children missing from home or care, unaccompanied asylum-seeking children, the local authority designated officer, children in care, fostering and adoption, placements, education outcomes, education inclusion, and care leavers. They had calls or meetings with children in care and care leavers, senior leaders, the chief exec and myself, social workers, personal assistants and managers, a judge, CAFCAS, independent advisors, foster panel chair and foster carers, adoption panel chair and adopters, schools and colleges. They sampled 745 cases and had 70 meetings and more. It's important for people to understand the scale and depth of this inspection, and rightly so, Mr. Mayor. They left no stone unturned, with every team in the service rising to the challenge, showing their passion and dedication to our most vulnerable children. The complex safeguarding hub, which supports children at risk of child sexual exploitation, received a special mention, as did the drive and determination of the leadership team. I'd like to give a special mention to Julie Daniels and Sheila Guerrara and the outgoing Gerard Jones for leading the way. Thank you, Gerard. Can I also thank the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Eddie Moores, who held the portfolio before me. His work and commitment laid the foundations for the outcome of the inspection. So thank you, Councillor Moores. We are not complacent, Mr. Mayor, and we are not driven by Ofsted ratings. We are driven by a desire to do the best for every child and young people in our great borough. And that's what will continue to drive myself, the leader, and the amazing people we have working with us here at Oldham Council. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Mushtaq. Councillor Hamdani.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Council is on track to introduce 3 children's homes in the borough in the current financial year. Could the Cabinet Member confirm how many children's places will be made available as a result? And will the Council commit to a rolling programme of creating new Council-run children's homes over at least the next 5 years, with a target for the number of places, bringing down the burden on the Council, financial burden on the Council for children's social care, and creating an avenue for income by creating provision for neighbouring authorities?
Thank you, Councillor Al-Hamdani, for the question. The 3 children's homes opening in 2025 will create 8 local placements for children in our care, alongside the 5 placements already available in our existing provision. As part of the children and young people placement sufficiency ambitions, the Council is reviewing the residential model and creating another 3 homes for a further 7 placements, which would deliver 20 Council-run placements over the next 3 years, providing Oldham with a more sustainable offer. This approach is in line with other local authorities across Greater Manchester. Given the increase in the number of looked-after children in Oldham, it is envisaged that all new placements created will provide a safe and stable home for children and young people, and consequently reduce the Council's financial pressures. And I'd just like to add, Councillor Al-Hamdani, and for everyone else, whilst discussing the budget, obviously it's quite often about cuts and reductions, we took the decision to do what's best, and this was an invest to save. So again, it's a politically led decision to do this because, as you highlight, long term, and there is an ongoing plan to continue with this. We want our children to be close to us, to be close to their families, and not have to take them out of borough, and if possible in the future, if we can raise some revenue by supporting others, and obviously supporting the children more importantly, then yes, we'd love to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Iqbal.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was really pleased to see that the recent inspection for our children's service was rated as good. However, I believe that one-word judgments or labels do not fully capture the quality and impact of the service provided. With that in mind, with the relevant cabinet member, share his personal priority for improving our children's services over the next year? Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Councillor Iqbal. The Council is delighted, as you know, with the outcome of the recent ILACS inspection, which details that all children's services were judged good. The judgments are supported with a comprehensive report for each area of judgment, inclusive of help and protection, children in care, care leavers, and impact of leaders overall, and overall judgment, as I've already highlighted. I do encourage yourself and everyone else to download the report and read it for yourselves. The service recognises the need for continuous improvement, and my three priorities for improving our children's services are improving the lives of children and young people through quality social work, working closely with our partners. Second one, a local home for every child in care and care leaver. And third, a stable and permanent workforce committed to Oldham. And Councillor Iqbal, you're right, one word doesn't describe the service. I went through the list for a reason, because I wanted everyone to hear the comprehensive nature of the report and the work that the team and social workers, everyone associated with children's social services, external partners, parents, the level of detail that went into this is phenomenal, and the amount of work, tireless work during that 3-week period. And I stressed to the team, you did 16 hours a day, 18 hours a day, 7 days a week throughout the inspection, but actually it's all the work you do every single day, all year round, that has led to that judgment. So the priorities, hopefully, will continue. We are working towards improving on this good Ofsted rating, but like you highlight, it's a one-word judgment. We want a fantastic, excellent, outstanding service for our children and young people. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mushtaq, and thank you for those kind words, by the way. Councillor Ali, Education and Skills Portfolio.
Yep. Mr. Deputy Mayor, in presenting my report, I wanted to start by congratulating all our young people on the results of the GCSE A-level and T-level and BTEC results. I am proud of what they have achieved and in the determination and resilience they have shown in studying for their qualifications. My sincere thanks to all school and college staff for all the work they do in supporting our young people in realising their ambitions, and to all our parents and carers for the support they provide. I am pleased that the unvalidated results for GCSE show that most schools in Oldham have improved their outcomes since 2019 with improved borough attainment. The unvalidated A-level results show that A to E grades were higher than last year and higher than the national average. It is encouraging to see these results, and as an administration we have been focused on improving outcomes through better partnership with schools, through the work we do with the secondary heads at the Oldham Learning Board, our quarterly meeting with the chief executive of the multi-academic trusts, also our relentless focus on improving attendance, working with the schools and supporting them with real-time data on attendance. I am pleased to report Ofsted inspection outcome for Oldham's primary schools shown an even a further improvement, with 93% of schools now rated good or outstanding. This is surpassing the national average, which is 92%. This is the highest figure ever for Oldham. Inspection outcomes for secondary schools have also shown significant improvement, with 61.5% rated good or outstanding. It was brilliant to welcome the Children's Commissioner for England, Dame Rachel de Souza, to Oldham, who wanted to personally congratulate us on Oldham's educational ambition and the innovative work we are doing in maximising school attendance. To further support children with special educational needs and disability, and with the support of the Department of Education and NHS England, we have recruited a range of new staff to support schools and families with early language support, preparation for adulthood. We continue to complete educational healthcare plan assessments in a timely manner, so that children quickly get the support they deserve. At Cabinet recently, we approved significant capital investment in building capacity and provision within our mainstream schools, so that children with additional needs can attend schools within their own locality rather than having to attend specialist schools. Recognising we have to do all we can to support our young people access job opportunities, we will be hosting our second annual Young People's Career event on the 24th of September. Our lifelong learning services supporting adult education is continuing to excel, with 2,244 residents enrolled and with a 97% pass rate last year. Through our Oldham Council Music School, I am thrilled that our youth brass band have once again brought pride in Oldham, winning both the Best Youth Band and the Audience Vote prizes at the Bold as Brass Contest. As I look to the future, the new transformative changes the new government has announced will drive standards in education further, with initiatives such as 6,500 new expert teachers to fill shortage subjects across the UK, improved teacher training, expert-led review of the curriculum to ensure it is rich, broad, inclusive and innovative, supporting children to study a creative or vocational subject, and with the new regional teams to enhance school-to-school support, along with the changes to the Ofsted inspection regime, I feel all of these initiatives will drive standards and attainment further. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Councillor Bishop, you have a question?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Could the Cabinet member please confirm how much has been spent annually on alternative education providers in the last 3 years, and what percentage of the annual education budget this has represented? What steps are the administration taking to ensure that our secondary schools are improving in their ability to meet the needs of all children?
Thank you, Councillor Bishop, for your question. Just for everybody's information, alternative provision is education outside school arranged by local authorities or schools themselves. It is a full-time education for young people who, because of exclusion, illness or other reasons, would not receive suitable education. For the year 2023-24, the Oldham Council alternative provision spend was £459,107.58 for the council commissioned provision. Secondary schools also commission their own alternative education provision. The council does not have access to information on the level of that spend. However, the Council does have a robust quality assurance framework in place for all alternative education provision in Oldham that includes a self-assessment, annual formal monitoring visits by SEND and advisory teaching staff, and regular visits throughout the year alongside an alternative provision provider network. Commissioned alternative provision is always in exceptional circumstances and always with the end goal of reintegration back to the mainstream school. Children and young people will only assess alternative provision for up to 2 days per week in addition to the mainstream offer. In relation to the education system, we take a partnership approach which incorporates schools and settings, services across education, health and social care, and parents and carers. Our Send and Inclusion Strategy and Improvement Programme have been co-produced with parents and carers to ensure that we take a joined-up approach to address the rising level of need. Local specialist support is of high quality, and this has been recognised in the recent ILACs and Ofsted annual conversation feedback. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Junaid Hussain, you have a question?
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. After the visit to Oldham by the Children's Commissioner, Dame Rachel de Souza, where Oldham was praised for our efforts to improve school attendance, could the Cabinet member update Council on the overall picture of school attendance across the borough? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hussain, for your question. Attendance at secondary school in Oldham is above the national average and the best among similar local authorities across the country. Primary school attendance is slightly below national average, with a particular issue among younger children in reception. Dame Rachel's visit allowed us to share the fantastic work we have been doing to improve this, including a stronger transition programme this summer involving over 500 calls to parents and carers as they prepared for the new term, which resulted in a 3% improvement in attendance rates in week 1 of the new term. After her visit, Dame Rachel commented, One of my young ambassadors on my national ambassadors team is from Oldham and told me I had to come. Oldham is trailblazing in helping kids get back to school after lockdown, and the council is doing some amazing work. So I've come to talk to the councillors today to see how they're making a difference to young people's life. And these are the words of Dame Rachel. Thank you.
We have 1 minute left. Councillor Al-Hamdani, would you like to ask your question?
Try and do it quickly. The government has announced it will be continuing the process of forced academisation for failing schools, but they don't have any plans for the process to be reversed. Given the experiences we've had in Oldham with failing academies, where it's been difficult to find people to take them over, will the Cabinet member lobby the government to change that?
Thank you, Councillor Al-Hamdani, for your question. We are fortunate to have many successful schools and academies in our borough. Our Oldham Learning Partnership ensures that trusts contribute to the local system and that all schools and academies deliver the best possible education for Oldham residents. So I was pleased to see the improvements that were noted by Ofsted when they visited Radcliffe, Oasis Oldham and Court Failsworth this year and found all three establishments to be good. Further, I was very pleased to see the Waterhead Academy will become part of EACT, a group with a proven track record in the borough.
Councillor Ali, we need to finish now. Could you just supply the answer in writing? Thank you.
Okay. Yep, thank you.
And now Councillor Peter Hussain, the Cabinet Member for Enterprise.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I'm happy to move the report as printed, and in doing so, can I also take this opportunity in thanking the markets team, Paul and his team, for all the hard work that they've been carrying out over the last few months with the market traders and the businesses. Thank you.
Now we have the questions. Councillor Aftab Hussain.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Could the Cabinet member update the Council on the timetable for allocating stalls to the stallholders in the new window market, please?
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. And thank you for your question, Councillor Aftab. Stallholders are working closely with the markets team on the selection of their stalls and to the new market, as well as the design and fit-out works needed as part of the process. This work will continue throughout all autumn. The team are working to balance and need to keep the process moving at pace, whilst respecting and allowing time for each stallholder to make their choice of location in the new market area. The team only moves to the next stallholder once the previous stallholder is satisfied with the location. And happy with the location whichever be given to them. Thank you, Aftab.
Any more questions for Councillor Sen as we got a couple of minutes? What happened? Everyone wanted to speak. Okay, thank you. We'll move on to the next portfolio, Councillor Brundage, Adult Health and Wellbeing Portfolio.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was going to curry favour and not say anything, but I think in the light of the question that Councillor Al-Hamdani asked, I just want to remind everybody that adults is working very hard on actually reducing our costs by changing the way we work, encouraging people to be kept living at home independently for longer. Doing that through our new target operating model and our new one-stop doorway, the ARC, which is deflecting something like 80% of all queries for people so they don't actually have to enter social care. Having said that, and having cut our costs over the last 2 years, this year we have got an overspend in adults. And the reason for that is the people who are in the service are living longer with much more complex needs. And the fact is there is not sufficient placements for people who need nursing care. So many of our residents have to be placed out of borough and we get charged. One of the reasons that we are hoping to develop Oldham Total Care, and I don't want to trespass on the question that's going to come in a minute, is that with that will offer us the opportunity to offer more in-house placements, which will again help address the cost. But we are working really hard at changing how we deliver that service to reduce those costs, but more importantly, to improve the outcomes for the residents. So I just felt I wanted to say that, and I will now answer my questions.
Thank you very much. Councillor Hamlet?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And yes, this question is going to be coming. Is the Cabinet member aware of the unjust and detrimental calculations that the Oldham Council are using to assess the amount a disabled person contributes to their non-residential care package? Because of the prejudice structure of the calculation, a disabled person in Oldham, or disabled people, should I say, in Oldham are disenfranchised and pushed even further under the poverty threshold than they already are, thus pushing people back into adult social services. Will the Cabinet member agree to undertake a review of non-residential care financing to ensure that the assessments are carried out in a fair and proper manner? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hamlet. So I can assure you that the current policy is compliant with minimum framework as outlined in the Care Act of 2014, the Care and Support Charging and Assessment of Resources, that's the run that rolls off the tongue, doesn't it, regulations, and the Care and Support Statutory Guidance. The current policy for non-residential care was implemented in 2015 and reviewed in 2021. Having said that, we are in the process of reviewing those policies and procedures, and as part of that we'll be running a consultation with residents, families and carers and colleagues from other services and partners to ensure that the charging policy is fair when we revise it. We'll also benchmark it across the other local authorities to show that we fall in line with similar demographics, and which also will encompass our strength-based approach. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Malik?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Following the acquisition of Oldham Total Care by the Council, there has been marked improvement in performance. Can the Cabinet member tell us what steps are being taken to make sure that this progress is sustained and built upon?
Thank you, Councillor Malik. Well, I think we all agree it was a bold decision to buy this home. And I'm glad to be able to say that our nerve has been justified, although it's been a bit of a roller coaster ride, I have to tell you. So having said that, we had to, as soon as we took over, we put a detailed improvement plan in place, overseen by the Deputy Assistant Director, who's also the nominated individual. That was an analysis of the financial, workforce and estates position of the home, with a main focus on maximising occupation, which at that point was as low as 75%. So I'm pleased to say that I have to give real tributes to Charlotte Walker, who was the nominated officer, and the existing workforce who've adopted the new regime with enthusiasm. Now, they're a very long-established workforce there. Many of them, I think they have something like 2,000 years service between them. It's something astronomical like that. Many family members. So they are very, very dedicated and committed, and they have taken to the new regime like ducks to water, and the atmosphere there is lovely. I think as a consequence of that, occupancy is now at 94%, which is absolutely brilliant. It's such an achievement. So we have approximately 130 residents living there now. So we have just managed to appoint a new manager who will start work in November. I was on the interviewing panel, and to say she's a force of nature really understates it. So I have great hopes for her. We have a quality matron seconded from the National Care Allowance, who also knows the new manager well, so they will work really well together to continue. With preparing the new business plan, new governance arrangements also need to be put in place. At the moment, myself and the Director of Adult Social Care are directors there, which isn't appropriate, so we are looking to put a new management system in place. But the objective is to develop that home, as I say, to provide increased accommodation for residents so they can stay in the borough, better quality accommodation, and also to keep it going. We've made real progress, and I'm confident that it will go on, and we are starting to get into the red, into the black ink, which is even better. Thank you.
Thank you. Last question, Costa.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Despite senior Labour figures promising to protect winter fuel payments ahead of the recent general election, I'm sure we've all seen the historic social media posts, this new national government has now moved to scrap them for many older people. There are hundreds of thousands of poorer pensioners who are not already on pension credit and who will be most adversely affected, particularly as we can now foresee further energy price rises, with Red Ed racing to reckless net zero targets through his Green New scam. In line with their long-standing desire to influence national policy, namely writing letters to each and every minister, will this administration support the cross-party campaign to save winter fuel payments? Thank you very much.
Well, I think it's very
I'm sure it's related to your portfolio, but...
Well, it sort of is. It's about old people, and they sort of fall in my portfolio. I'll answer it. I think it's really interesting that we all talk about making difficult decisions, and then we actually make difficult decisions. Everybody starts crying and doesn't like it. So if you're asking me, then in times of great financial hardship, paying a universal benefit to pensioners who don't need it is not sensible.
£11,000, really?
No, the people who don't need it. So there's a lot of people, a lot of pensioners who are extremely well off, do not need this benefit.
Please listen to the answer if you ask the question.
Well, I haven't finished yet, if you wouldn't
Please
mind,
do
let
not
me
interrupt.
finish.
Councillor Brownridge, continue.
So I recognise, obviously, that there are a tranche of pensioners at the other end of the scale who would be detrimentally affected, particularly those who don't qualify for pension credit but are still on hardship levels. So I think a more constructive response is to carry on our work and identifying people in Oldham who qualify for pension credit and don't yet claim it and helping them claim it. But to lobby the government to make the system for claiming it much simpler because it's exceedingly complicated, and to suggest that the limit for actually being eligible for it should be raised to reflect the cost of living currently. So rather than a universal benefit, we should have it targeted, but the targeting should be more precise. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Councillor Goodwin, don't trash Oldham. I do have a long list of people who want to ask questions, and I can't see getting through all of them, so you will have to provide some written responses, please.
No problem, Mr. Mayor. This report highlights the work that's been carried out recently within my portfolio. As you can see, we are committed to making Oldham a cleaner, greener borough, with 650 new trees to be planted by March 2025 and an additional 2.5 hectares of new woodland. In lay terms, that's the equivalent of 7.5 football pitches. It also highlights where we are with the treatment of weeds on our highways. Whilst attempts to secure a contractor earlier in the year were unsuccessful, we've now brought this service in-house fully and going forward so that future years' programmes will commence much sooner in the calendar year. The report also highlights improvements to our play areas and parks and also to the maintenance and resurfacing programme of our highways. What the report doesn't state is that alongside other boroughs in Greater Manchester, except Wigan, from the 14th of October, residents will be able to put more plastics in their brown bins for recycling. This will allow plastics such as yoghurt pots, margarine tubs and plastic trays to be recycled alongside plastic bottles. I'm confident that this will boost our recycling rate, again towards our aim of a cleaner, greener borough. Also not in the report is the new programme to clean the borough's gullies. All councillors have been invited to a presentation tomorrow evening where our new gully cleaning plan will be presented, where all 47,500 gullies across the borough will be cleaned on a ward-by-ward basis. Local councillors will be vital in the delivery of this, so I'll take this opportunity to encourage all members to attend. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I have 12 or 13 people who want to ask you questions. May I urge you to write your question to Councillor Goodwin so he can answer, but I will take as many as I can. If you keep your question brief and answer brief, that might help us to get through as many as we can. Councillor Murphy?
I'll try and be quick, Mr. Mayor. I would like to take this opportunity to say a massive thank you from the Liberal Democrat group to the former Head of Environmental Services for over 45 years of loyal service to Oldham. Mr. Glendale left the council a few weeks ago, and it's fair to say the way he was treated was appalling, and has left the staff shocked.
Do you want to ask the question, please? Because this is not the speech time. No, sorry, you need to ask the question rather than individualizing.
Okay, then. Right, well... so, my question is in relation to both these people having over 87 years of experience and how the Cabinet member will ensure stability for those services. Now those two key members of staff, like I say, with 87 years experience, have left the council, and I would like to thank Glenn's brother Craig for his years of service. Moving on to the question that I submitted, the administration was warned that cuts to environmental services would result in a much poorer services to residents, but Labour councillors insisted that this wouldn't be the case. This year's weed treatment was virtually non-existent in large parts of the borough, and the summer planting didn't take place. What guarantee will the Cabinet member give residents that there will be no further cuts to environmental services and that the service will improve going forward? I would seriously consider changing the Cabinet portfolio name of Don't Trash Oldham, because your administration is doing a fantastic job of trashing it, propped up by the four independents.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr.
Councillor Goodwin, do you want to answer?
First of all, we don't get involved in the staffing. That's down to the Director of Environment. I am aware that there is a restructure going on in that area, and I'm sure that will provide the stability that's necessary. The fact that you need to ask the question about whether there can be any guarantee that there's no cuts in future years shows that you are completely unaware of the financial crisis facing local government and the impact on this council. I've not got a crystal ball. Right, we can't guarantee there will no further cuts to environmental services while budgets are reducing and demand for statutory services increasing. We just work as hard as we can to protect them. The weed spraying service was nothing to do with reduction in budgets. That was because the service was contracted to an external provider who failed to deliver with the agreed standard. As a result, rather than dealing with additional delays by reprocuring the service, the council brought this service in-house. As a result, we have increased investment in the service, trained additional staff, bought more equipment and materials to deliver the service. Now, we appreciate that this has taken time, but given the significant investment made to the service in-house, we're confident this will be able to meet demand and residents' expectations. The weed spraying programme is being supported by teams undertaking mechanical removal, and this will continue as we move forward.
Thank you. Councillor Sharp.
So will you join me in thanking Glendale for his service? 45 years.
Thank you. Across the borough, it's my understanding that a number of areas in our local parks have become part of the council's biodiversity charter, with deferred mowing only being cut back once or twice a year. As a result of this, a number of local residents in my own ward have raised concerns about the health and safety of the overgrown and untidy nature of these areas. I would be grateful if the relevant Cabinet member could highlight how much this cutback in maintenance saves the council each year, and if the council's motivation for this is to provide and protect natural habitats for wildlife, such as deer and willow tit, surely the council should therefore focus on protecting our green belt where these habitats are in abundance instead of planning to build across them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. We are committed to meeting the climate and biodiversity challenge. Reducing mowing generates a number of benefits for the environment. These include, but are not limited to, increased biodiversity, carbon sequestration, reduced soil erosion, moisture retention, creation of natural spaces, and community engagement involvement. All of these benefits are difficult to quantify in monetary terms. Reducing mowing areas still require ongoing management and maintenance to ensure safety, highway safety, public safety and sustainable growth. These changes do lead to some savings, but given the growth of the green space borough-wide, any savings realised are invested elsewhere. However, understandably, there are equipment, fuel, material, time savings for specific sites, but these have not been quantified as the service that delivers this work does so on a borough-wide basis.
I'll take one more question from Councillor Costa. Sorry if we run out of the time, but I'll just take last question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Given that the Waterloo Street Bridge has been closed for 2 years, causing disruptions to residents, local businesses and the traffic flows, can you please explain why the repairs are taking so long? Why are the councillors and the public not being given an accurate completion date? What specific steps are being taken to ensure that the project is completed urgently? Will the council or are the council receiving compensation for these delays? And what lessons have been learnt from the prolonged closure to prevent similar delays in the future? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. The work on the bridge has been complicated and there's been unexpected delays due to that. You have asked a very detailed question and I will provide an answer, a very detailed answer in writing.
Councillor Bishop, that gives you opportunity to ask the question.
Thank you. I'll be really quick. Can the Cabinet Member provide the following details relating to parking marshals at Dovestones? A. How much did OMBC contribute towards the parking marshals at Dovestones in the financial year 2023 to 24? B. How much is OMBC contributing towards the parking marshals at Dovestones in the financial year 24 to 25? C. If there is a difference, how is it explained? D. How much did OMBC raise in total revenue from parking charges and fines at Dovestones in 2023 to 24? Thank you.
I will be
Thank you for the
surprised if
question.
you know numbers.
I can confirm that the contribution from the council towards parking at Dovestones has remained unchanged over financial years 23-24 and 24-25 at £6,000 a year. The contribution has been matched by funding from our partners United Utilities and the Royal Society for the Protection of Birds. I can also confirm that pay and display income was £159,821 and penalty notice charge issues amounted to £25,629 for the period 23-24.
Thank you.
May I request remaining members who could not ask questions to write to Councillor Goodwin to get a response. Councillor Dean, Thriving Communities and Culture Portfolio.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I could make 3 points on the report that I presented to you, and one is our great drive, the administration drive on residents first, and how we are responding to residents getting access to services. And we're doing that, as been mentioned earlier. We reopened the Customer Service Centre, we're reopening Royton Town Hall, but more importantly, customers can get access to information, help and appointment services at all our libraries and other facilities. So there's 14 different facilities that people can actually get advice and services from and get referrals to the services. And that's about people getting quick, good, local services that will really impact on early help and early, hopefully, interventions. The other one I'd like to mention is that we're now refreshing the cultural strategy, and that's in the light of the changes in the Colosseum, but more importantly, trying to bring live a lot of the cultural archive material and various other things into the communities that see them. We've got a lot of different elements that really people just don't see and don't appreciate our history and that. So we're working now and starting working on a new cultural strategy, which obviously will come forward, and we hope that it will be engaging and interesting to people and give them a real, hopefully, a really good feeling about the local community and Oldham in general. The other thing is, if I could mention, which I think we really should do, and that's the stronger communities and community safety work, and particularly the work that our staff did over the recent disturbances, because it was absolutely commendable. They engaged all different organisations, they worked round the clock. I think some people were putting in about 20 hours a day, and it worked. You know, we really was very, very successful. And that success really wasn't by sitting back, it was by really strong, proactive work. And I would commend the staff that actually put that time in and that work in, and I think it was a great benefit to this town. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have Councillor Marland.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Following the recent announcement relating to the town centre development, could the Cabinet Member confirm what the future of the nuclear bunker under this building is likely to be, please? It would be a huge cultural asset to have it turned into an educational facility to teach the past to Cold War and life during the 60s and 70s to future generations and preserve our history before it is consigned to rubble. Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Marlin. I can confirm that the Council are working closely with our development partners, Muse, and progress is being made in the sense that an assessment is being made of the building, including the Civic Centre. This includes the basement bunker, which has been visited recently by both the development partners and their technical advisors and relevant local interest groups. At this stage, however, no final decision has been taken on the long-term future of the building. However, we will be progressing over the coming months and obviously we will register your interest in what you're suggesting within your question. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Adams.
The nighttime economy in Royton is worth millions of pounds to the town each year. It is thriving and growing. In the last 18 months, Royton North councillors have held several meetings with business owners and GMP to discuss ways to ensure that the economy continues to grow and that the town centre is a safe and welcoming environment for both residents and for those from further afield who come to visit. Over the last August bank holiday weekend, in broad daylight, masked thugs targeted the Barclay Pizza and Prosecco bar twice, smashing windows with bricks in deliberate acts of wanton vandalism. Would the Cabinet member, who has responsibility for the nighttime economy and is also a resident of Royton, detail what meetings he has held with the owner of the venue and with GMP regarding these shocking criminal acts? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Adams, for your question. I'm aware of these incidents and obviously I've been inspecting the incidents from the outside. The Community Service has been in contact with Greater Manchester Police to ensure that this matter is being dealt with. Greater Manchester Police have confirmed that the incident is subject to the ongoing police investigation. To support this, the leader of the council has also been to the had meetings with the bar owners along with GMP and our licensing team. This was also followed up by the attendance at a pub watch meeting hosted by Bartley's. The Community Safety Services continue to work closely with the police to ensure that offenders, when identified, are dealt with appropriately. This will include the use of the civic tools and powers alongside any criminal prosecutions undertaken by Greater Manchester Police. The local authority will actively seek to exclude the offenders from the area and prohibit their association in public to reduce the detrimental impact of their actions. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Davis.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Could you confirm the additional police support and other support which Lucy Powell and I have requested around the Elder Road area of Failsworth after the recent machete attack and antisocial behaviour in the area?
Thank you, Councillor Davis. And thank you for the work you've done. I am pleased to confirm that the new inspector for the area has now allocated additional resources. This will be targeted Thursday, Friday and Saturday evenings. The Council's community safety team have also visited local businesses and residents with the offer of support. Additional community safety measures are also being considered. The youth work team are targeting the area at key times and will discuss with young people the consequences of behaviour and how they engage them in activities. We also be looking for a more suitable location for them to socialise. The team also report that they have already managed to get some of the young people into mainstream youth activities and contacts at schools have been made as well. So thanks very much indeed for the work yourself and Lucy Powell have made.
Councillor Lancaster.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. In recent months, I've seen and received more regular reports of fireworks being lit late at night, often past the legal limit. Those responsible are causing great inconvenience to Oldham residents and, of course, are committing a criminal offence. From a justice and community safety perspective, could the Cabinet Member please provide an update on what actions Oldham Council can and will take to address this antisocial scourge? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Lancaster, for raising this, because this is a plague across the old borough. I think most residents are suffering this problem, and it's very difficult to actually address it, I'll be quite frank. Our community safety unit and the police have been all round venues. They've actually tried to, as well, communicate through social media and everything. The main problem is the law, unfortunately, in this instance. People can legally set fireworks off between 7 a.m. and 11 p.m. After 11 p.m. is the police's responsibility to try to capture and prosecute anybody that is there. And I think that the sale in fireworks as well is, again, a major problem that legislation hasn't really caught up with, because most of the fireworks are being bought online through internet sales, and it is a real issue and a real problem. And I personally think the only recourse is, and I certainly will be making representatives to our MP, to actually change the law, to try to get a firmer and stronger law associated with fireworks. We can actually try to engage communities, which we have. I think our community safety unit has been to a lot of community organisations and religious organisations and voluntary sector organisations, trying to emphasise the disturbance and upset that is causing the communities. But we'll still keep on going, we'll still work, and of course the police have a really hard job, because the fireworks are let off not in any venues, they just let off ad hoc all over the place. So it's something that we really press our communities to actually desist in, and hopefully we can look at pressing our MPs to look at this in Parliament through a bill that might be able to restrict the use of them.
Thank you very much. Apologies, Councillor Zahir Ali and Councillor Azad. We run out of time, but do submit your question in writing if you wish so. Item 11, notice of
point of order, please, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, what's the point of order?
Point of order, I'll make it as quick as I can. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to take up anybody's time. Can I just wind you back slightly, over an hour? Well, I still quite don't understand how the group leaders' questions got thrown in with the questions to the Leader of the Council, and it is a sense of disappointment to at least the 4 listed councillors who haven't had a chance to ask the Leader of the Council their question. Would the Leader kindly undertake, on receipt of written questions from at least those 4 listed councillors, that she will reply? Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. So I think Borough Solicitor has explained why we went this way. But I think what I was trying to do, even though people have indicated in advance that they want to speak, I was just trying to make sure that it is politically balanced, so everyone gets opportunity, not one person. No, so that's something between the group leaders. No, absolutely. So that's between the group leaders. If you agree and change the procedures, protocols, that's fine. I'll follow that. Please do put your questions in. Please do put your questions in writing. And if you don't get answers from cabinet members, we can bring it to this next meeting again and ask why you didn't get a response. Thank you very much. You got notice of administration business. You got 30 minutes. I'm mindful. Got 2 motions, number of amendments. And I will be interrupting people and asking people to stop speaking at the right time, so no apologies. Strengthening the Online Safety Act, I call on Councillor Harrison to move and Councillor Nashin to second the motion.
Move, Mr Mayor. Disinformation is not a new concept, but the internet has magnified it. According to UNESCO's survey of November 23, 56% of internet users frequently use social media to stay informed about current events. A scary statistic given the consequences that malicious actors' claims have. A survey by London Economics of 2020 found that 70.2% of the population read misinformation on social media or other online sources during the pandemic, and that to offset the impact of that misinformation, it cost the economy £2.379 billion during the second quarter of 2020 alone. This is just one stat on the impact of the economic security of our country, but what about the human impact? The Director General of the UN's culture body stated that false information and hate speech online poses major risks to social cohesion, peace and stability, with, according to UNESCO's 2023 survey, those who are primarily affected being LGBT plus people and ethnic or racial minorities. Societally, disinformation does cause unrest, division and destruction. This year, on the 29th of July 2024, a mass stabbing targeting children occurred at a dance studio in Southport. 3 children were killed: 6-year-old BB King, 7-year-old Elsie Dort Stancombe, and 9-year-old Alice De Silva Aguirre. Following this, because of disinformation and misinformation online, far-right riots took place across the country. Within hours of the attack, a name was published online. This name was false. Before the fake name was published, an ex-user who often posted Islamophobic and anti-immigrant content claimed the attacker was Muslim. This information was false. The second half of the ex-user's post claimed he was an immigrant. This information was false. Nigel Farage questioned whether the truth was being withheld by the police from the public regarding the identity of the suspect. This insinuation was false. These malicious actors, who provided an Asian name, claimed he was a Muslim, claimed he was an immigrant, insinuated the police were covering up information, all fanned the flames and provided a space for hateful views to materialise, and ultimately provided a platform for a rise in Islamophobia and anti-migrant and anti-police anger. While it is right to thank the police superintendent and all the community volunteers who stepped up in our time of need, all of this simply cannot go on. We have a child aged 12 who has been convicted of crimes they should never have been near. There must be better resources and training for parents, schools and third sector organisations, and there must be further improvements to the Online Safety Act. And without curtailing our freedoms to protest and free speech, as our new Labour Prime Minister swiftly demonstrated can be done, we must ramp up criminal justice by strengthening enforcement mechanisms to ensure compliance and increase penalties for violations. And finally, and this is a must, ensure victims of online abuse and crimes are properly supported as if it was a face-to-face crime. Please support this motion.
Thank you. Very well timed. Councillor Nashin to second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Rumours, misinformation, disinformation and malinformation are common challenges confronting media of all types. It is, however, worse in the case of digital media, especially on social media platforms. Ease of access and use of speed information diffusion and difficulty in correcting false information make control of undesirable information an appalling task. The widespread anti-immigrant riots in the past few weeks and the false viral claims that fuel them may be the clearest, most direct example yet of the way unchecked misinformation on social media can produce violence and harm. Even after authorities identified a UK national as a suspect behind a series of deadly stabbings targeting young children, false claims about the attackers' name and origins propelled far-right demonstrations. The fake claims circulating on many different social platforms where police have openly blamed that misinformation for the violence across the country, with rioters throwing bricks at mosques, setting cars on fire and chanting anti-Islamic slogans whilst clashing with police officers in riot gear. A 17-year-old from Lancashire is accused of the attack, but false claims spread online that the suspect was an asylum seeker who'd arrived in the UK by boat. Hundreds of far-right demonstrators took to the streets chanting "Enough is enough" and "Save our children," while targeting migrants. Social media footage shows the thugs using racist terminology and setting places on fire whilst looting from town centre shops. A hotel that provides shelter for asylum seekers near Failsworth on Oldham Road was one of the places that was targeted. More far-right protests had been expected, but with a heavy police presence on the streets, this did not materialise into large scales. Instead, thousands of anti-racist protesters gathered in cities across the country. The British public's reaction to the rioting has been resoundingly negative on a YouGov poll published on the 5th of August. Nearly half of respondents said that those taking part in recent riots should receive harsher sentences than those that would normally be issued with this type of crime. When there was misinformation listing in a site in Oldham, Chadderton, to be a potential protest from the far right, speculation spread online and through to the community. The police and council worked together requesting calm and warning of the misinformation. The community came together in support against the far right with banners reading solidarity against the far right. I want to thank all those that did not filter or respond negatively, but instead came together in solidarity and in good community spirit. I conclude by asking you to please support this motion and to strengthen the Online Safety Act in addressing the safety issues, spread of misinformation and to protect our communities. There is more that unites us than divides us. Thank you.
Well done. Did you want to, Councillor Harkness and Alhamdan, did you want to speak on motion or on amendment? So we're going to move straight to amendment, and then if you wish to speak, I can take you in. So I'll call on Councillor Quick to move and Councillor Arnott to second the amendment.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I will speak to the amendment and try and keep to time, but essentially there is I'd say a double-edged sword with much of what social media is, and hence why we've added to the motion rather than taking anything out, because there is important aspects to the motion that are in there, but equally we do have to be careful before we throw the baby out of the bathwater when it comes to free speech and people's liberties. Because too often, while social media may produce the worst in people, there is important democratic aspects to it, which allow people to, obviously in places like Venezuela, protest and display that there is mass voting irregularities, to the recent issues in Bangladesh, to other issues in countries in Europe. But equally, we have to be aware that whilst we all want to have a civilised debate, there is a place for debate that shouldn't be silenced. And too often, politicians who may not like what people have to say online want to silence that, and I think that that's wrong. We have to accept the criticism that we face from any member of the public, good or bad. And sometimes, I think, with a heavy hand from government, they can get it wrong, and it can cause more problems than it necessarily helps. I also think that when it comes to establishing the facts, there is a need to be careful what we say around ongoing court cases. So hence why we haven't mentioned necessarily what went on in Southport, but why we feel that the established facts that helped cause it were put in there, and who necessarily was behind that, and which particular news station. However, there is a particular responsibility by social media companies that needs to be addressed, specifically around child abuse, extortion and blackmail. And the issue that you face, and we all face, is that a lot of these social media companies are based in the US and gather vast amounts of information which users readily hand over. But in the US they are protected by the First Amendment, and attempts to try and curtail any sort of free speech is used in the context of the First Amendment, and hence why social media companies are able to, in some cases, abuse what is clear criminality going on. But there are existing laws that are in place that may need updating, and I think that's something that we need to make sure happens. I think members of Parliament have to be considered in doing that, because a social media is essentially just a publishing platform in the same way that a newspaper was a publishing platform, and when leaflets were a publishing platform, the laws exist there already, they just need to be updated. But what I don't want to see happen is that people who say things online and have used information that's turned out to be false then face particular issues of court and potentially prison cases when in fact they felt that that information was true at the time. I don't think you should go to prison necessarily just for a Facebook post. And I don't think that's right for the course of civil liberties, because at the end of the day, we have to be careful what information is put out there. But equally, those people who do put that out there should be the judge and holders of that responsibility. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Constantine, do you want to second it?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I rise to second this amendment. I'm sure will be delighted to know that I will be brief. The amendment itself removes very little, if anything, at all from the motion, and instead supports, expands and adds context to most of the points that it makes and resolutions that it aims to achieve. In the course of brevity and expediency, I will progress to the detail in the amendment that really matters, the resolutions themselves, because after all the speeches and contributions, it is those points on which Council will be asked to vote one way or the other. The resolutions that this amendment proposes, while retaining in their totality those proposed in the original motion, further add weights to that motion by asking Council to undertake to acknowledge and support principles that bind our democratic and civil society, and reaffirm that both His Majesty's Government and this Metropolitan Borough Council will value and protect freedom of speech and hard-won rights and freedoms. That this Metropolitan Borough Council will never abuse the powers it has been granted against residents that are lawfully exercising their right to free speech. And that the police service in this country are the sole agency that upholds the rule of law and order. And then we have a police service that polices by consent and does so without fear or favour. I would urge all members to read in detail those resolution points and the content within them, and if inexplicably they choose, as is their right of course, to vote against this amendment, to consider how they could possibly justify opposing those resolutions. I further urge members to support this amendment unanimously. Not to do so will be beyond comprehension for many people watching these proceedings who truly value the rights of citizens, freedom of speech and a police service that serves us all. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. How great is it that no one is shouting and screaming and allowing people to speak. I hope we can carry on like this. Councillor Mushtaq, did you want to speak on amendment?
Yes, please.
Sorry, just before you speak, Councillor Harkness, did you want to speak on amendment or on the original motion? On amendment, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'm pleased to hear both councillors Arnott and Quigg talk about politicians not curtailing freedom of speech and sticking to the amendment. And I think it's important that we don't use this chamber, this Green Book, to spread misinformation as well. And I'm going to now talk about why I don't think I should, or my colleagues, or anyone should support this amendment. The amendment makes reference to a BBC investigation which found that a Pakistani national had posted an article that included a false name for the perpetrator responsible for the slaughter of 3 young girls in Southport. The report about the outcome of this investigation is dated the 6th of August 2024. Since then, there have been several reports, including a BBC report on the 26th of August, that the case against the Pakistani national has been dropped because, and I quote from the article, in Monday's court session, police said that Mr. Asif was a freelancer at a private channel and that they found he had shared news by a different social media account in the UK. So whose account had he shared? Mr. Mayor, he shared the account of the person whom it is widely accepted was the first to put out the disinformation, one Bernadette Spofford, a well-known anti-lockdown activist that lives in Cheshire. Several articles report that Mrs. Spofford admits posting false information because she believed it to be true at the time. She acknowledges that it was her post that was shared by Channel 3 Now and the Pakistani National that Councillor Quigg so conveniently alludes to in his amendment. And I quote Mrs. Spofford, "I acknowledge that it may have been the source for the information used by a Russian website." A Mail Online article published on the 8th of August 2024 confirms that 2 minutes after Mrs. Spofford's post was posted, the details appeared on Channel 3 Now. The same article confirms that hers was the first post. The point I'm making, Mr. Mayor, is that the amendment is at best misleading, and if I were a cynic, I might think it was spreading misinformation. The riots were not stoked by a little-known website called Channel 3 Now. They were stoked by prominent figures like Mrs. Spofford, Tommy Robinson, Andrew Tate, and Nigel Farage. That's where the evidence points. I have an opinion as to why Councillor Quigg failed to highlight the role of Mrs. Spofford and others in his amendment, instead blaming a Pakistani national. I won't share my opinion with you today. What I will do is show you a photo of the person who was responsible. This lady here.
No, it's not.
No, that's in every newspaper article you can find.
Go and carry on.
And against the person who Councillor Quigg decided to blame. So that's the actual perpetrator, and this is the person Councillor Quigg decided to blame. I will not, and I will ask you not to vote for this amendment because of its misleading content and quite possibly, in the opinion of some, its attempt to spread misinformation. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Harkness.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I do rise to support the motion, but we don't feel we could support the amendment. I do thank Councillor Harrison's and Nasheem's contributions, and our speaker as well. I think made some very important points. Don't agree with necessarily everything, but I think there's some very important points there. And now this Online Safety Act is a very important piece of legislation. Now there was lots of misinformation spread during the riots. In Oldham, I know some people who were very reluctant to go out into the town centre or into places like Manchester, and we seem to be in this stage sometimes where some official sources with facts seem to be carried the same weight as some of these conspiracy theories which are spreading rubbish. I thank the leader for her briefing, keeping us up to date, and the work of the officers during that period, which was very important. Now, obviously, some of the stuff which is going on online, so people just being horrible to each other, the extremism needs to be challenged and robust action needs to be taken. And it isn't the fuel for this rubbish. So playing one group off against another and the extremists spreading and exploiting challenging times of people we need to be challenging that, because people are going through difficult times and the extremists are exploiting that. Sensible debate, the right to protest and freedom of speech are essential. I agree with that, yeah, but discrimination and racism needs to be challenged rigorously, and we can't allow that. Now, I want to sort of just put it outside. So the Mayor's mentioned this earlier on. He talked quite a lot about us showing respect to each other, and councillors do need to do that right thing in the chamber, but also online. And some councillors in here, online, have spread misinformation and unkind things online before. And I think one thing I want to sort of bring into that is, since I came back onto the council, I've found that the culture here seems to be much more toxic than it used to be. And, I've seen some councillors, some leadership, some officers who have not always treated people with respect. And it is on leaders to create the positive culture. So this nastiness and sometimes lies on social media by some councillors and some of their associates does not help. And councillors need to lead by example. Like I said, so I think Councillor Arnott talks about the last bit of these amendments and about freedom of speech. We support all of that. However, there's a lot more in that amendment which I don't think we feel we can support, and therefore we will be supporting the motion, but we won't be supporting the amendment. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Sorry, we're running out of time. Councillor Horbin, very briefly. Sorry, on the motion you want. In that case, I'm going to move to the vote because we're running out of the time. So, Councillor Harrison, do you wish to reply?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Criticism, I think we all accept that. However, I had a friend who felt during the height of the summer holidays, because of the online rhetoric, that they couldn't take their children to the park nor go shopping for food for their family through fear of what they'd seen across the country, all because of the colour of their skin. I think sometimes it's important to note the difference between free speech, misinformation and hate speech. Those who fear their right to free speech is being taken away need to remember to stay within the parameters of the law and they'll be okay. In addition, residents who supported the community in our objective of avoiding violence should be thanked by every one of us in this chamber. I give heartfelt thanks to each and one of you. Collectively, all members of society, the police, the volunteers, the council, etc., all working together for a common cause should be commended. It is through working together as a community that we avoided what could have, as seen across the country, been a horrific outcome for the residents of Oldham. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Quick, do you wish to reply?
Yeah, I do, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much. A lot of what we've just heard hasn't actually referring to the amendment. And as Councillor Arnott quite rightly said, you're referring to the resolution points, not what's necessarily in the preamble. But if we're going to go down that route, we might as well do that because let me just be frank, Councillor Mushtaq, that was from the BBC website. In fact, the wording was from the BBC website, so perhaps the BBC are spreading misinformation because the Channel 3 website was the one that was being quoted. And you can hold up as many props as you want, but when there's an ongoing court case, you do really need to be careful within the bounds of the law what you're doing, because otherwise you may prejudice the trial that's ongoing or potentially going to be ongoing. So, smart move from yourself on that one. I will say that it's interesting that you don't seem to want to support our police officers in our addition to the amendment, particularly those who protect our ports of entry at Manchester Airport. I suppose those officers who do that 24/7 and keep us safe will be resolute that Oldham Council doesn't necessarily care about them because, you know, they're a commodity which is there for everyone's safety, but not in this council's view, it's not. But then, let's talk about, shall we, Oldham's contribution to this. Because it is rather interesting, to say the least, of the word community ambassadors was bandied around by the Assistant Chief Executive of this council. Something that the Assistant Chief Executive might want to be careful of, and who established these people as community ambassadors, volunteers. Well, it's interesting. Some of these volunteers have got criminal records as long as your arm. Who vetted them? Who allowed these people to police our streets with criminal records? Because I certainly didn't consent to that, and I don't appreciate having these people managing protests or policing our streets, because that's what the constabulary is for. GMP officers police our streets, and it's disturbing to say the least, that officers are being replaced by these community ambassadors. Who elected them? Who appointed them? Who put them in place? Who gave them the council high-vis jackets? Because I certainly didn't consent to that. I didn't consent to that, and the law doesn't consent to that. And I find it interesting that this council certainly seems to be going down a very dark and dangerous road, especially when the Assistant Chief Executive tries to influence the outcome of Facebook posts put on by opposition parties who may have serious questions relating to that, and that is certainly an influence of how the dark hand of this council and the officer party seems very intent on interfering in the democratic process. But then again, why should we care about that? Well, I'll tell you why we should care about that. Because free speech is something that should be valued. Because in places like Russia, you can get locked away for saying things that aren't very nice about Mr. Putin. You can get locked away for saying things about people in Brazil if you're not complimentary about the judge or the president or anyone else in the Brazilian cabinet. Get locked away for saying things that may be critical. I suppose Councillor Shah may well be bordering on that herself, given her adverse attitude towards any critique or criticism or scrutiny. So,
Sorry, Councillor Quick, you will have to wrap up quickly. We've got only 5 minutes.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I will finish. It's interesting that this council doesn't support or protect or want to support its residents in their right to free speech. And that, to me, sets the tone. Residents of this borough should understand that this council doesn't necessarily care
Mr.
what
Mayor,
they have
point
to
of
say.
order. That's just simply not true. That statement is simply not true. And he's got no evidence. He's just saying things that don't make sense.
Just 1 second, let me just ask you, do you want to qualify your statement? Babe?
Yeah, I will, because I'll qualify the statement that you don't support our amendment. There you go.
So by not supporting the amendment, we don't support our residents.
So we're not having
It's
two-way.
in print.
Sorry, we're not
I've
having
got it in
two-way
print. I'm quite happy
debate.
to say that.
You're not having two-way debate. So would you please mind
Who
wrapping
am I
it
having a
up?
debate with? I'm having a debate with you. I'm having a debate with who else? I'm quite happy to.
Honestly, when the time comes, I will happily debate with you, but
Happy days,
not
Mr.
today.
Mayor.
Not today.
Happy days. Well, Mr. Mayor, given that you want to censor the opposition, I'll close it on that motion. And
If
leave
you
it-
were
I'll move-
censored, you would have been set down
I'll
by
move it
now.
to the vote. I'll
No,
move it to the vote, Mr. Mayor.
Hopefully one day you'll get a chance to sit here and then you will know that how difficult this job is, Councillor Craig. Move to vote. So we're voting on amendment. Does Council agree the amendment? Those in favour? Those against? Any abstentions? So amendment is lost. Now I'm really sorry, but I don't have a time to speak on the original motion now. We're already running late, so I'm going to move straight to the vote. Does Councillor Harrison wish to reply? Use the right fish. Don't have.
Yes, sorry, Mr. Mayor. I just think the fact that someone in this chamber feels that they can take the moral high ground on this subject when they themselves have been asked by GMP to remove their online misinformation is shameful.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor, that is factually untrue. So you retract that statement immediately, otherwise you'll be hearing from me and my solicitor.
And once again, truthfully, our collective efforts, all members of society working together for a common cause, should be commended. It is through working together as a community that we avoided what could have, as we saw across the country, been a horrific outcome for the residents of Oldham.
Okay, so
Thank you.
Let's go back to that. So do you want to withdraw your statement?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Quake, you just called someone liar. Do you want to withdraw your statement? So do you want to withdraw your statement? Okay, that's
Mr.
fine.
Mayor, what I stated was that someone in this chamber feels that they can take the moral high ground. I don't really understand why Councillor Quigg is upset.
Did you never mention any names?
Councillor Sheldon, as per our group meeting, where I was asked to ask the group leader, do you want to ask your member to withdraw the statement?
I would like to ask Councillor Harrison to explain what she said about Lewis Quigg and
I didn't say anything about Lewis Quigg. What I stated was that someone in this chamber feels they can take the moral high ground on this subject when they've been asked by GMP to remove their online misinformation is shameful. I did not want to mention Councillor.
Okay, so we're not gonna. So you're not being named, Councillor Quigg, but you asked someone lied. So do you want to stick? Do you want to stick with your words of saying liar, or do you want to withdraw your words? I'm asking you to withdraw those words. So, Councillor Sheldon, as per your group leaders' meeting, do you want to intervene on this case?
At the group leaders' meeting, it was said...
Sorry, just Councillor Mishtak, let me please speak.
Everybody is having a go at interrupting, aren't they, tonight? At the group leaders' meeting, it was decided that you, as the mayor, were in charge of the meeting and you would take action. It's not up to me.
You want me to remove your member from the chamber? That's what you're essentially asking me, rather than advising.
Mr. Mayor.
I'm not going to do it, but I think you're sticking with your words of saying you called someone liar. I do want to take your words back, Councillor Quigg. That will be a wiser thing to do.
Can you clarify what part of the Constitution you're referring to here, Mr. Bursley? Because I'm slightly obscured to what you're referring to, because I've got slight concerns about what's been said and what's factually accurate.
I think you just called a member a liar, and I'm just asking you, do you want to withdraw your words?
On what basis, Mr. Mayor? On what part of the Constitution are you referring to?
Because it's a offensive word to call your colleague a liar.
Right. So,
I don't think you can qualify that.
So if she's not prepared to... She's saying that she hasn't named
She has not named you.
Right, okay. So will
It's
she name
Councillor
that person?
Harrison, not she. Thank you.
Sorry, Councillor Harrison, apologies. Will you refer to that person and name that person? Yes or no?
No, she doesn't have to.
Then I'll withdraw my words on the pain and the fact
Okay, thank you very much. That's really helpful.
No,
Thank you.
I'll have a caveat here. The caveat that on your advice, Mr.
Thank
Mayor.
you very much. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Councillor Quigg.
Would have been much
Mr.
easier
Mayor,
if you would...
can I just ask a question about this? Because she accused somebody in the chamber of being contacted by Greater Manchester Police. How can she accuse somebody in this... Excuse me, Mr. Mayor. How can she accuse a member of this council? Mr. Mayor...
I'm asking you to stay quiet.
I have a point of personal explanation then, Mr. Mayor. She accused
You're
the
not involved in that. There's no point of personal explanation. I'm asking you to sit down now. I'm asking you to sit down second time. I'm asking you to sit down third time. Please, I'm asking you to stay quiet. There's no point of personal explanation. You're not involved in this. There was a matter between the two members which is resolved. So please sit down. So I'm really sorry for your second motion. You can only move and second it formally and move to the vote. Sorry. Sorry, we need to vote on the motion first.
Motion as presented.
So motion as presented. All those in favour? All those against? Any abstentions? Okay, thank you very much. Your second motion, is there any amendment to that? Okay, so you got two amendments on your second motion. We run out of the time, so you just literally will have to move second and Sam with the amendments as well. So I call on Councillor Taylor to move and Councillor Islam to second.
Sorry, apologies, Mr. Mayor. I didn't quite catch what you said. Are you just asking for a formal move in and seconded?
Yes, please.
Yes, okay. I formally move the motion.
Councillor Islam?
I second that, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so I got first amendment. I call on Councillor Quick to move and Councillor Adams to second. It's just moving, please. Thank you. Thank you. And I'm going to take a vote on first. Yes, she has done. Yeah. So we need to take a vote on the amendment first, isn't it? Okay. So all those in the favour of amendment? All those against amendment? Any abstentions? So first amendment is lost. I move to the second amendment.
Move.
Thank you very much. And it's moved and seconded. So we're going to move to the vote. All those in favour of amendment? All those against? Okay, any abstentions? So second amendment is lost as well. So we're voting on original motion now. As all those in the favour of original motion? All those against? Any abstentions? Okay, so motion is carried. So item 12, notice of opposition business. As per earlier decision, you have for the first motion 10 minutes, scrap the two-child benefit cap. A call on Councillor Sykes to move and Councillor Hamdani to second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be as brief as I can be. We've had debates before on this in the council chamber when it was introduced a number of years back by the Conservative government. We've also had debates about child poverty on a number of occasions, and also it's not just the poverty, it's the impact that poverty has on the children in terms of their education and their life chances. Therefore, for me, in terms of a priority for a new government, would be to get rid of this, which would then help directly the 11,000 or so children, or some of them, that are living in poverty in this borough, and it will be a single step on the way to addressing child poverty and the impacts of it. It's not cheap, but then is this not one of the most important? I've had it described as the most important in this chamber by people opposite on more than one occasions. So, what we'd like to see is this council support its scrapping and make that clear to its elected representatives, and then we can move forward and that can be the start of our first part of our plan to hopefully tackle child poverty. I just find it amazing we stand here and talk about child poverty in the 5th or 6th richest nation in the world, and it just shouldn't be. And this would be a positive step to address that. So without any further ado, Mr Mayor, I'd urge people to support the motion as printed and not the wish-washy amendment that's to follow.
Councillor Hamdani, do you want to second it?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Some issues are so important, so pressing, so at the core of one's beliefs, that the seriousness of the risk demonstrates the seriousness of the issue at stake. The two-child benefit cap was introduced in 2017 by George Osborne under the government of Theresa May. And that Conservative government paid for its tax cuts to corporations and the wealthy by targeting children, among others, for cuts in benefits and services. The result is that after years of Conservative governments, more than 4 million children now live in relative poverty. In 2022, more than 1 million of them experienced destitution, lacking the essentials to be adequately fed, kept warm and clothed. The two-child cap on benefits was one of the cruelest policies of the Osborne era. It means that no benefits are paid for the third or any subsequent children in a family. It affects more than 1.5 million children. Just the simple measure of scrapping this cap would lift about 300,000 children out of poverty. Now, prior to the election, many Labour MPs and supporters were really pleased to see a commitment to introducing an anti-poverty strategy. The argument was that scrapping the cap could be the first significant step in that strategy. And although Labour had set out its First Steps policy programme and not included this, the budget preparation was underway quickly after the election. It is becoming increasingly apparent that the Chancellor has left herself sufficient flexibility on estimates of growth and additional taxation measures to accommodate the measure. The cost is estimated at an initial £1.7 billion. A campaign to scrap the cap attracted the support of more than 120 civil society organisations, including the main national poverty campaigns, religious bodies and trade unions. Now, why should the Labour members decide to vote for the motion rather than put through their amendment? You may notice I normally look up and give a speech based on what I'm just thinking. Those are not my words. That was the words of John McDonnell, the former deputy leader of the Labour Party, before he had voted against the government's plans to keep that cap in place. If your Labour members are saying that, you should think twice about voting for your amendment and about keeping this cap in place.
Thank you very much. Councillor, you indicated you wanted to speak. Do you want to speak on amendment or on motion? On motion? On amendment, okay. So we've got amendment and we'll move straight to amendment. Just to remind people, we've got very limited time, so please keep it very brief.
So how long have I got, Mr. Mayor?
30 seconds now.
No, seriously, how long have I got?
We've got total 5 minutes on this section left, so I'll say 1 minute.
I'll try very brief. Look, child poverty is really damaging and it needs to be addressed. We all have responsibility for doing that. Would I like this to scrap this limit at the cap? Absolutely. But here's the real issue. The real issue is that we've been left with a financial crisis which is really, really very difficult to manage. £22 billion. But I just want to, Mr. Mayor, I just want to say this to you, right? In 2010, we had a coalition government. And at that time, the coalition government brought in a number of austerity measures, including cutting benefits, welfare benefits, and so on. And what they actually did, let me say, that they said they need to balance the national deficit, okay? At the time, the national deficit was £1.01 trillion, which was 65% of the GDP. 65% of the GDP. Please listen to this carefully. They scrapped the education maintenance allowance. They scrapped the council tax rebate. They introduced bedroom tax. They introduced household benefit cap. They introduced universal credit. For what? To balance the national debt. Today, that national debt stands at £2.69 trillion, 99% of the GDP. 99% of the GDP. And the Liberal Democrats are asking us to vote for this after 2 months being in government. So we've seen the national debt increase in that 14 years by nearly threefold. And they're saying right now we should be doing this. Now, Mr. Mayor, we've got to be responsible, because the problem is if you're not responsible in finance, you end up bankrupting the country. And we've seen this when Liz Truss did the mini-budget in September 2022, when she voted for £45 billion of tax cut, which was unfunded. Now, we're not going to be doing that. That's completely irresponsible. And that's why we're making the amendments. I am saying that we will lobby to scrap this limit as soon as possible, but we've got to make sure that we can control and clear the mess the Tory government has left. And that's why we brought this amendment. I'll leave it at that, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Councillor Estridge.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I rise to second this amendment, not because I don't agree with the spirit of it, but because we have to accept that this new government has left a torrid inheritance from the Conservative Party. And it's my strong preference that the two-child benefit cap will be repealed as soon as is practically possible. I know myself as a former teacher the real impact that families living in poverty has on children and young people. It means, for example, kids turning up to school without the right PE kit or trainers to take part in valuable sport and exercise. I think it's really important that we remember that when the Tory Lib Dem coalition came to power, they equally had difficult decisions to make. They abolished the educational maintenance allowance, meaning that hundreds of young people in Oldham suddenly couldn't afford to get themselves to college or indeed to the sixth form anymore. I think it's quite rich of the Liberal Democrats to try to political point score so early in this new government's term of office before they have recognised their role to play in the state of public finances. They propped up the Tories for 5 years. They set a stage for tax breaks for millionaires and billionaires. They were in government when the Building Schools for the Future was cancelled. And they were the ones who promised to oppose any increase in tuition fees. And we all know how that one went, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We are out of the time. I'm going to take brief speaker after, and then we're going to move to vote.
I forgot, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, the original motion is about doing the right thing for the children of Oldham and not the amendment. Councillor Jabbar, I have a lot of respect for you, but when you represent a ward like Calderst, along with Werneth, which has the highest poverty rate, child poverty rate in the borough, it is disappointing that you have not stood up on this issue. This was the Oldham Labour Group's opportunity to stand up for the 11,000 children across the borough who are living in poverty, but you choose not to. We can fix this if we have the political will to do so. By scrapping this cap, we could instantly uplift 300,000 children from poverty. This isn't a radical demand. It's the policy of the Labour Party's 11 affiliated unions and the TUC, which represents 6 million workers, of all Oldham Labour groups are members of. Most of you are members of these unions. This is not about politics, but about people. The children and families of Oldham. Let's do the right thing for them. Let's reject this amendment and show that we stand for fairness, dignity and solidarity. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Does Councillor Sykes wish to reply?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll just reply briefly. The point is, it's not for us to decide what happens nationally. What it's for us is to stand up for what's right. And what's right is ending this cap and two-child poverty. If the government decides not to do that, that's their business. But we need to be unequivocally clear. Not we'll wait, or when it's appropriate, or, you know, whenever never comes. The time to do it is now. And if there's the political will, you can do it. There are other ways besides going into debt where you could fund this. It's not rocket science. If you want to do it, do it. Resist the amendment, please, and then vote for the motion unamended. Thank you.
Wish to reply?
Yeah, very briefly, Mr. Mayor, look, I understand the issues about poverty in my ward, in other wards in Oldham, but the reality of the situation is that we're not actually saying that we're against ending the cap or scrapping that. I've said that, Ken said that. We want to end it, but what we're saying is when it's financially possible. And that's the thing. You can't be irresponsible. I've said several times today, the state of the British government finance is actually terrible. It's far worse than what it was in 2010. And when the appropriate time comes, I'm absolutely confident that this new Labour government will scrap this cap. Thank you.
We're moving to vote. Voting on amendment, does Councillor agree the amendment? All those in favour? All those against? Abstentions? So amendment is carried. So voting on original motion
Mr. Mayor?
as amended.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Sorry.
I believe that that amendment fundamentally changes the nature of the motion, and I know that you may have made a decision that that's not what happens. On the basis that I believe this is no longer the motion that we put forward, I'd like to withdraw the motion.
We just debated that motion, voted. You're making Paul's life very easy, obviously, on the last full council meeting. So Paul will explain in a second.
So therefore, because the chair has agreed well, not agreed, but has decided that the amendment was a legitimate amendment, that being voted upon and passed, then we have to revert back to the substantive motion to be voted upon.
So it will be voting on original motion as amended. Okay. So all those in favour? All those against? Any abstentions? Okay, so motion as amended is carried. Have I got it right? Yeah. Thank you. Right.
Motion 2.
Motion to motor insurance premiums. I call on Councillor Akhtar to move and Councillor Ibrahim to second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I rise to move a motion that addresses a deeply concerning issue within our community, a racial disparity in motor insurance premiums that is not only unjust, but also a glaring example of the systematic discrimination that persists in our society. Recent studies have unveiled a shocking truth. Residents in the most ethnically diverse areas of our country, including right here in Oldham, are being systematically charged higher motor insurance premiums. A 2023 Citizens Advice Bureau survey found that these residents face premiums that are on average 33% higher than those in less diverse areas. Let me be clear, this disparity is not due to higher crime rates, more accidents, or the value of the vehicles. It is due to the postcode lottery of where they live, and more insidiously, the racial and ethnic backgrounds of the people who live there. This is not just an abstract statistic. It's a reflection of a reality that thousands of our residents face daily, being penalised financially simply because of their ethnicity or the diversity of their community. And the discrimination goes deeper. We have evidence that individuals with names like Muhammad are being quoted higher premiums than those with names like John, despite having identical risk profiles. This is blatant, unacceptable discrimination. Mr. Mayor, this council has a proud tradition of standing up for fairness, equity and justice. I doubt that with the last motion though. We have always believed that Oldham's diversity is our greatest strength. But what good is our strength if it becomes a reason for our residents to be targeted, marginalised and economically disadvantaged? While we may not have direct control over the insurance industry, We do have a voice, and it is time we use it. We must hold the insurance companies accountable, demand transparency, and challenge these discriminatory practices. We must insist that MPs take this fight to the highest levels of government, pressing the Financial Conduct Authority to act with urgency and ensuring that the promises made in the Labour manifesto are not just words on a page, but transformed into concrete actions that benefit our community. We must empower our residents supporting local initiatives that raise awareness and much providing needed assistance to those affected by this injustice. We must build alliances across councils, with government bodies and with organisations that share our commitment to eradicating racial disparities in all forms. This motion is not just about car insurance, it is about who we are as a community. It's about whether we will allow systematic discrimination to go unchallenged or whether we will rise up and fight for what is right. I believe we must choose the latter. I urge you all to support this motion and stand together in solidarity with every resident of Oldham who has been unfairly treated. Let us send a clear message today. Discrimination has no place in our town, and we will not rest until every resident is treated with the fairness and respect they deserve. Mr Mayor, we accept the amendment proposed by the Labour Group. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Ibrahim, second.
Sorry. Thank you, Mr Mayor. I rise today to second this important motion, which directly impacts many residents of our borough. As a council, we have both a moral and civil duty to ensure fairness and support to our citizens. It is deeply concerning to note that insurance premiums are higher in areas that have high populations of ethnic minorities. These areas are often characterised by deprivation, high crime rates and lower property values. This disproportionate increase in premiums only serves to deepen the existing inequalities in our communities. I strongly urge the members of this chamber to support this motion and to take a stand against the racial discrimination that continues to affect our borough. We must work closely with insurance regulators to ensure fair and equitable insurance policies for individuals and families, allowing to commute to work, send their children to school and live their lives without being unfairly penalised. Let's come together to ensure that everyone in this borough is treated with fairness and dignity.
Thank you very much. So we have amendment. I know even though you have accepted the amendment, it still needs to be moved and seconded. Councillor Shah, do you want to move amendment?
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Bringing this amendment to this motion, not because I disagree with anything of the spirit of the motion that Councillor Akhtar or Councillor Ibrahim have put forward, but because I disagree fundamentally with the way it is presented. It's a really important topic about inequalities and about the unfairness that our communities face when buying car insurance. Therefore, I would like this to be viewed as a friendly amendment. It's really important that we get things like this right. The Citizens Advice Report referenced early in the motion states on page 4, our mystery shopping did not find any statistically significant differences in prices paid by customers with different names, but we did find significant differences between customers living in different areas. Now, obviously, Mr Mayor, these kind of things are intersectional. People living in deprived areas are likely to be from BAME backgrounds and then end up paying more that way. We want fairness for all communities because we serve all communities, and it is in this spirit that we bring forward this amendment. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
That's the briefest conversation you ever been. Councillor Mohanali, do you want to second?
Yeah, I just want to formally second the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So it's already been accepted by you. All those in favour? Against? Abstentions? Okay, so amendment is carried. So we are going back to the original motion. Councillor Byrne wanted to speak to original motion.
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Sorry, motion as amended.
I have sympathy with anyone who pays more motor insurance than they should do. However, Councillor Shah has mentioned certain things which I want to mention. You've actually presented this, but with no actual evidence. You've not said that you can prove that this has happened. Councillor Shah has mentioned a review that I don't know whether she has made or the group has made. But I think we need a bit more meat on this and with actual figures. And I found it quite, well, strange that people should pick names out. Now, if you can pick names out and give them increased premiums, well, where is the evidence and how many? Is it just in your ward or is it in other wards? But I'm afraid I couldn't vote for this because I don't have the actual evidence before me that says this has happened. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. We will move to vote, but before that, Councillor, do you want to use your right of reply?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, because I've clearly stated that it's the 2023 Citizen Advice Survey that actually found those disparity in terms of the insurance. That's where the actual research has come from. And it's quite clear in that names are being mentioned, that the name Muhammad, when you put that name in, it actually sort of increases the insurance premiums.
Thank you very much. We're going to move to vote on motion as amended. All those in favor? All those against? Any abstentions? Okay. Motion as amended is carried. So next motion, we have 10 minutes for this motion, putting Oldham Council back in the black. Call on Councillor Quick to move and Councillor Woodvine to second the motion.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, it's obviously clear from the press briefings that have occurred before these meetings that Oldham Council is in some difficulties with the figures. To get, as I said, in the budget only in February, to have condescending messages from the Finance Chief, the Leader of the Council and others as to what is actually going on should worry anybody in this borough as to why the state of the council finances have certainly worsened since the budget. In fact, if anything, what was presented in the budget wasn't necessarily worth the paper it was printed on, because it seems we've gone over budget on various items, and this seems to be a bit of a pattern and case that seems to occur year after year. But it also means, ultimately, that the residents of this borough face a challenge as to whether they're going to end up paying more council tax and getting fewer services, but also the risk of a Section 114 hanging over this council. And it was mentioned again in the budget of this potential lingering spectre. And it is a serious point to make on this. Birmingham City Council is in such a mess, one of the largest authorities in Western Europe is in such a mess, even after the changes and the inspectors coming in. So what we're asking for is basically to get to why we are now in this state. And that's why obviously our motion essentially calls for a forensic accountant to come in and check what we've done right, what we've done wrong, and where we can do, going forward, better. Now, that isn't a scary prospect, it's just a factual accounting thing that can be done. It's something that we should want to see and something we should want to encourage, that we get somebody to check what's happened in the past and what we're doing currently. But whether that matters to the Director of Finance and others is another matter. What the people of this borough will be concerned about is whether or not we have actually acted in the best value and the best value duty of the residents of this borough. And I can take, since we're allowed to have props in these meetings now, the small things and the large things where this council's wasting money. The small things are on badges like this, little pin badges that are given out for nothing to anyone who asks for them at taxpayers' expense. So the large things in the town centre where, for many residents, they don't feel as though we're being listened to. And this is where the little and the large and the small and the medium and the size, etc. all matter. Because everything matters when it comes to the pounds and the pennies. A million here, a million there, soon adds up to real money. But, does everyone in this room feel comfortable and have the confidence that they've been told everything that they should. Because I seem to hear varying different aspects that when we ask for things, it takes a rather long time to find those answers, and it takes a rather long time to get to the truth. But then, I don't want to go down the route of blaming anyone, but Councillor Jabbar, you have been in place for quite a long time in this role, so it would be helpful, as to why we've got it in our motion, that opposition members are given the full facts and are briefed with the full facts. I have emails with the Director of Finance asking for a meeting with her going back months, and I've been told that we can't have a meeting with her because apparently they haven't got time. But at some point, the residents of this borough will be asked, councillors here, to present an alternative budget next year. And essentially, opposition councillors are now... Move extension.
You are out of time, sorry.
I'll
give you 5 seconds to conclude.
5 seconds, where they should be able to present a fully legal and fully accurate budget. And at the minute, we're not.
Councillor Woodbine.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One of my favourite things happened to me recently. I was proven right. When I proposed the Conservatives' opposition budget in March of this year, I showed significant foresight when I said this administration's long-term strategy has always been unsustainable and has been obvious from the start, to wait until there is another Labour government to bail them out. That I wish might come true in the not-too-distant future, but it won't just be this council facing bankruptcy if it does. Now, only 2 months into a Labour government, our worst nightmares have been realised. We've not only got a black hole locally, but also nationally. When will the Labour Party learn that making reckless and unfunded spending commitments doesn't work? That said, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Removing a portrait of the greatest Prime Minister of the 20th century from Downing Street, simply because she was a Conservative, is very similar to banishing all opposition councillors from the members' corridor in this civic centre. So much for the so-called tolerant left. But as always, they have nobody to blame but themselves, because, as we all expected, no blank cheque for this council has been forthcoming. It is, however, a shame that misleading people seem systematic amongst Labour Party politicians too, as it's not only this council's leadership, but Mrs Abrahams and Mr McMahon who also participate in that practice, as they stood along Starmer's promises in the general election that he would not increase taxes, a likelihood which is looking increasingly likely. Our MPs were also not upfront about freezing pensioners to death, which they effectively voted for this week. It's a tale as old as the party itself when it comes to Labour. They say one thing to get elected, then do the opposite once in office. The serious incompetence is shown locally and now nationally by the Labour Party comes as no surprise to me, but it's my sincere hope that they are turfed out of office at the earliest opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have Councillor Jabbar. You want
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't know where to start with this. I just don't understand, right, the point of bringing this motion to the council. Obviously, both of them don't understand local government finance, and they don't understand the decision-making process that takes place in this. But you've got all the information that you need about the budget. At every stage, you've got it in the audit committee, you've got it on the Scrutiny committee, you've got it here in the council. They don't bother to read this. And what they're doing, Mr. Mayor, is scaremongering people and frightening people. This council is not under threat of bankruptcy, not under threat of Section 114. I'm telling you this. The financial issues that we've got, we talked about, has been faced by many councils. We've faced this challenge for many years. This isn't anything new. And the reason why we're in this position, because their government, national government, actually bankrupted this country. And there's a £22 billion of gap right now, nationally. And incidentally, in 2022, when the mini budget happened, a £45 billion of unfunded tax cuts they gave. They're trying to do the same thing here. Last 3 years, they actually said freezing the council tax. If they were in charge, we would have been bankrupt already. If we accepted those proposals, we would have lost 7.7 million. On top of the problems that we've got, we would have lost 7.7 million pounds from the base of this council. So it is absolute nonsense. Now, you haven't written to me at all. You haven't asked me for any information, either of you. And no, I'm the cabinet member for finance. If you asked me for the information, I would have done my best to give it to you. But the issue is this. When we set the budget, this has been presented to the Scrutiny Committee. We go at lengths to give you hundreds of pages of documents. And I remember, Councillor Woodbine, at the last meeting, you were playing with your phone and you actually voted with all our proposal. And then when it came to the council meeting, you actually voted against. So I don't know what's the purpose of doing that. So you ask these questions here, but when you're given the opportunity to scrutinize our proposal, you actually ignore it. And that's the problem, that we face. Now, this is the real issue. We care about the people of Oldham. We will make sure that we manage the council finances so that we are not bankrupt. And we care about, and we will do this, right? This administration, Labour administration, collectively we will do that. Now, I'd like to see the Tory party here make a constructive proposal or an intervention to help us with the problem that we've got. We've got a Labour administration. We've already been asking them to help us out. Can you say, right, in the last 14 years, when your government have been running the country nationally, you wrote to them asking for the support or to change the funding formula for local government to help us out? The answer to that is no, because I have asked this previously. So don't come here and scaremonger people. We have got a real financial issue. We're dealing with it, and we'll get to the bottom of it. And I can guarantee you this council will not be bankrupt. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. So we are out of time. For example, briefly, very 30 seconds.
Brief. Yeah? Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just quickly to the members for Royton North and Saddlewell South, Councillors Quigg and Woodbine, it's just best not to name officers as such in a motion. That's just my brief advice. But mainly, you have pointed out that obviously the Cabinet Member for Value, Money and Sustainability, Councillor Jabbar, has been in this brief for 13 years, and it's just interesting that after 5 different leaders, not counting the present one who's currently on their comeback tour, and multiple different projects that have failed and not gone well, and speaking of the various projects, considering we've had no M&S or Aldi, and the ghosts at Mumps, we've got shiny, slippery paving slabs when wet at the front of Tommy Field, and behind the Lyceum causing chaos for all the pedestrians when they slip and slide around the town centre. A hotel that is apparently going to be built out the 1960s Civic Tower, where there are currently people sleeping rough outside its very doors. So that's quite a bit of a future to come anyway. I think it's really telling the way that this ailing Labour administration is going at the moment, in the fact and the directory and tract. I just think, ultimately, all the promises that this borough has been given over the years, need to wrap it up, not a single thing has actually happened. So, be honest with people, tell us what's going to actually happen, and actually show the future and finances of this place, because ultimately it doesn't seem as if nothing's going anywhere.
Just for the record.
Point of information, Mr. Mayor. You've just said right that nothing has happened. I mean, that's just unbelievably untrue. But that's not true. We've delivered on many.
Just for the clarity, I know you said, but I don't believe that Councillor Quigg mentioned any name of any officers. So
Sorry,
just for the
name
record.
the Director of Finance.
Well, it's not the name; it's the title, which people are allowed to use. Does Councillor Quigg wish to reply? Oh, I would have been surprised.
Well, you're not going to miss out, Mr. Mayor, because, famous last words, Councillor Jabbar, never say you don't know, never predict the future when it comes to money, because I'll tell you now, a lot of fortunes have been lost, certainly when that comes around, because that was the same tactic that Birmingham used until it went bump, Nottingham used and it went bump. So I think the people of this borough have a right to be sceptical of Councillor Jabbar's famous last words. It does seem to be you're running rather scared as to why you don't want us to try and enhance the financial security of this borough. Rather strange indeed, because anyone with a clear conscience would just say, well, okay, we'll open them up, have them checked, and on your way, if there's nothing to find, then there's nothing to find. If there is, well, let's find out and let's deal with it. It's as straightforward as that. But it does. You do mention our budget proposal that was put forward. Sorry, budget amendment, Mr. Mayor. It does rather stagger me that, given that, again, I've got the emails to the Director of Finance asking for meetings on this matter to try and put forward a legal amendment, that at the last budget she decided to, the Director of Finance, said that to freeze council tax would be reckless. Well, given that the council's budget shortfall has nearly gone from 20 odd million to nearly 30 odd million, I don't think our group will take any lectures on things going forward when such a shortfall of that magnitude comes forward to the people of this borough, because ultimately it is the people of this borough who will pay the price for the mistakes of this administration. And there are many. There are many projects that have failed. Hotel Future never happened. Now we're getting a hotel high-rise, you know, like Nakatomi Tower next.
Out of time.
But thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, on that point, given the time frames we've got left. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're going to move to vote. Does Councillor agree the motion? Those in favour? All those against? Any abstentions? Motion lost. I've been advised that we are out of time, so I'm suggesting that we extend the guillotine till by 10 minutes to 9:40 to run through the rest of the business. Is that agreed, acceptable? I can extend it for... Yeah, thank you. Motion 4, we have 5 minutes for the motion. Mass graves in Oldham cemeteries. I call on Councillor Hurley to move and Councillor Hughes to second the motion.
I will try, thank you Mr Mayor, I will try my best to get this in 5 minutes, I promise. As women moved from home births into hospitals in the 1950s, somehow a new practice started. Deaths of stillborn and newborn babies. This is hard. I've spoken to mothers. I have sat with sisters. I have sat with brothers who have told me this tale over and over and over again. It's hard. Mothers were denied their deceased babies. In every hospital, in every town, in every city in this country, this practice was commonplace. You can't see or hold your baby. You will recover quicker if you don't. It's best not to dwell. Babies were quickly taken away, and mothers were told that they would be buried with someone else. And that was that. No one questioned what they were told. Mothers were hurting. They were grieving. And let's not forget, back then, no one questioned authority. When someone told you something, you believed it. But that was then, and this is now. People are angry. Angry that they were lied to. And each of us completely understand that anger. We cannot rewrite history, no matter how much we would want to. Sadly, what has happened, we cannot change. But as an authority, we can lead the way and help unite those families. Our burial record system has many faults. We found numbers missing, names missing. And the cemeteries team are working hard to change that, to put those paper records online. Actually, our research in the last few weeks have found that Oldham actually has a good system. Bolton's system is pay to view. Tameside's system has been down for weeks. Records in other authorities are poor. But what we need to ensure is that all paper records, every ledger that's in a cupboard, every file that we hold is put on this system so that people can find their babies at last. A memorial for relatives to come and feel close to their babies. A place to spend time, reflect and be united. But most importantly, to ensure that our processes help relatives find their loved ones that they're caring and robust, that we give people the correct information and not opinions. This isn't about finding someone to blame. This is not about pointing the finger. This is not about politics. This is a social injustice that happened in every town, every city, and in every corner of the UK.
Extension, Mr. Mayor.
1 minute, Mr. Mayor. For almost 4 decades. And it happened here. It happened for our residents, and it happened in our communities. Here in the chamber today, we can move together as one. We can vote for this motion. We can together demonstrate to the people of Oldham and that these elected members in this chamber can be united. Oldham mothers are watching, relatives are watching, the country is watching. Thousands of babies were taken. Let us as a council give them back. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Hughes, do you want to formally second it?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As a mother, to hear the devastating news over the past few weeks, it is truly heartbreaking to hear about families who never knew where their loved ones were. These families have missed out on special occasions such as birthdays, Christmases, etc., not knowing where they are and being able to spend time with them. To find out in our local cemetery in Royton, there are in excess of 400 stillborn babies and young babies who only lived for a short period of time in just 2 graves. I am a newly elected member, and over the last couple of weeks I have had to hold mothers in the cemetery who are absolutely heartbroken. I've had calls from devastated mothers to help locate their child. I have not done this as a councillor, I have done this mother to mother. I've got 2 examples here from 2 grieving relatives who have received help after finding their babies and brothers. After years of searching for the place for my baby brother, he has been found. Thank you for kindly meeting myself, my sister and good friend at Royton Cemetery to show us where Joey was buried. It was so sad to know he was in a mass, unmarked burial plot. We, the family, always thought baby Joey was buried with a young lady, but now we know the truth. Thank you, it's much appreciated. For decades I searched and I wondered where my baby was. Born stillborn, I researched and contacted organisations. Some said, let it be. And some said they would get back to me, yet always left me feeling empty. I am eternally grateful for giving me the name to contact who gave me my little girl's resting place. I can now go and see her and have a chat, lay some flowers. I am dreading it, but I must get through that first visit. I am urging all members in this chamber to do the honourable thing by the grieving relatives and vote in favour of this motion. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
We don't have time, but Councillor Shah, 10 seconds, literally.
Yeah, firstly, just to thank both Councillors Hurley and Councillor Hughes. I think it's a really important motion. I'm really grateful they brought it tonight. I think, thankfully, this practice no longer happens. However, it's wrong that the place where these people are buried is not properly marked. We will work towards updating our processes, but I'd also would like to let the Chamber know tonight that I've asked our cemeteries team to arrange and install a memorial in all our council cemeteries to remember them, and this will be paid out of my personal budget. As in the case mentioned in the motion, cemetery staff are able and ready to help anyone who needs to find a lost grave. I hope this news will bring some peace and solace to those surviving relatives who have loved ones buried in our cemeteries. And once again, thanks to Councillor Hurley and Councillor Hughes.
Thank you very much. Can I just say a personal thank you to Councillor Hurley and Councillor Hughes for bringing such an important issue here. We're going to move to vote. You do have right to reply, but you articulated it so well that I'm sure you will. Thank you. All those in favour? Against? Any abstentions? Motion carried. Thank you very much again. We have a last motion, and we are already out of the time. So you have 5 minutes. Is collective spirit...
Point of order, Mr Mayor. Quickly, Mr Mayor, briefly. Given that at the last meeting that the member who's about to propose this motion proposed it in the administration business, I'm confused as to why this is in opposition business, and I still haven't got clarity as to what the position is with the member who's about to speak.
I've been advised you need to ask your own group leader because it was discussed that they have 5 minutes to present the motion. So, right, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I rise to move this motion and will be asking for a recorded vote. This chamber has a proud tradition of working in the interests of vulnerable children. The horrific subject of CSE being a case in point. Now that we have instigated a full independent CSE inquiry with the support of everyone in this chamber, other people are coming forward with accounts relating to other issues of child neglect and abuse. I have been contacted by over 80 individuals regarding the failure and closure of the collective Free Spirit School in 2017. These include former students, parents and other stakeholders who have given their accounts to this monstrous failure. These people still await answers and, more importantly, accountability. Therefore, I ask members to support this motion. Once again, I ask this chamber to demonstrate its commitment to the vulnerable and support. And in effect, this is nothing more than a cost of a stamp. This is nothing more than a request. So I'd ask everyone to get behind this motion. So thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Nefsi.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Firstly, I'd like to thank my colleague, Councillor Ince, for being here after he was hospitalised yesterday evening. But back to why I've raised. No child should suffer any type of neglect, especially in a school where children from a very early age should thrive. So therefore, I second this motion.
Right, we are running out of the time. Do you want to wish your right of reply? Are you happy to move to vote? Okay.
Mr Mayor.
Sorry. It needs to be 5 members if you want a recorded vote. Okay.
Mr Mayor, in name vote, please indicate for, against or abstain. Councillor Adams. Councillor Akhtar. Councillor Al-Hamdani. Councillor Ali Mohan. Councillor Ali Zahir. Councillor Arnott. Councillor Aslam. Councillor Azad. Councillor Ball. Councillor Bashforth. Councillor Bishop. Councillor Brownridge. Councillor Byrne. Councillor Charters. Councillor Cosgrove. Councillor Davis. Councillor Dean. Councillor Gaffor. Councillor Goodwin. Councillor Hamlet. Councillor Harkness. Councillor Harrison. Councillor Hints. Councillor Hindle. Councillor Holbin. Councillor Hughes. Councillor Hurley. Councillor Hussain Aftab. Councillor Hussain Feeder. Councillor Hussain Junaid. Councillor Hussain Sajid. Councillor Ibrahim. Councillor Iqbal. Councillor Islam. Councillor Jabbar. Councillor Kenyon. Councillor Kuza. Councillor Lancaster. Councillor Malik. Councillor Marland. Councillor McLaren. Councillor Moores. Councillor Murphy. Councillor Mushtaq. Councillor Nasheen. Councillor Navesey. Councillor Quigg.
Councillor Rustage, Councillor Shah, Councillor Sharp, Councillor Sheldon, Councillor Shuttleworth, Councillor Sykes, Councillor Taylor, Councillor Wahid, Councillor Wilkinson, Councillor Williamson, Councillor Woodvine,
Abstain.
and Councillor Shaw.
What's the outcome, sorry? So 46 for, 13 abstentions is carried. Right, we move on to the next item, agenda item 13, update on actions from the Council. I call on Councillor Shah to move and Councillor Taylor to second the report.
Move, Mr Mayor.
Second, Mr Mayor.
Yeah, just on the motion for the graveyard time, is there any update at the moment, or is it just still ongoing?
Councillor Shah, do you want to respond?
Yeah. For the what? Sorry, I didn't hear.
Graveyard motion.
For the last time, July the 10th, the motion for the graveyard extension of times.
I'll get you an update. I'm not entirely sure. I can't remember right now off the top of my head. It is work's ongoing, but I'll get you a proper update.
Councillor Harkness.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So at the last meeting on the updates, I asked for an update regarding the 20-mile-an-hour zones. Now, I want to specifically talk about the response I got regarding the scheme in Denshaw, which was approved in July 2023. Now, Pam, Luke and I have been asking, as well as residents, for some time about what's going on and when that's going to be done. Now, the last update we had was it was going to be done during the 6-week holidays. It's not been done. I've asked again and said, so when is it going to be done? I've still not received a response, so I'm hoping we might get a response tonight. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
We will get you update in writing if that's okay.
Mr Mayor, I can respond. It's going to be done by mid-October.
Concern.
Quickly, Mr Mayor, could I direct you towards a motion that I seconded and the administration actually proposed, which is the Labour motion 2. Boys Need Bins is on page 101 of your bundle, and there's an undertaking that the council will provide at least one sanitary bin in all council male toilets, both public and council buildings. Is there an update on whether that target has been achieved? Thank you.
Do you want to respond now, or do you want to respond in writing?
I responded to the question about the works in Denshaw.
Yeah.
They will be done by mid-October.
I think Councillor Goodwin's still on the previous motion, but I do remember the joint approval of that motion. I'll get Councillor on a written update.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to, does Council note the report and appointments made to the various outside bodies? No, that is not. Okay. Constitutional update. I call on Councillor Shah to move and Councillor Jabbar to second the report.
Move, Mr Mayor.
Second, Mr Mayor.
Does any member wish to speak? We don't have time, but... Okay. All agreed? Does the Council agree the recommendations and delegate to the Director of the Legal consequential amendments to the Constitution? Item 15, Treasury Management Report 2023-24. I call on Councillor Jabbar to move and Councillor Shah to second the report.
Moved, Mr Mayor.
Second, Mr Mayor.
Does any member wish to speak? Not that I have time, but... Okay. Sorry, what were you raising? All right. Does Council agree recommendations in the report? Okay. Item 16, Oldham Youth Justice Service Plan 2024-25. I call on Councillor Mushtaq to move and Councillor Shah to second the report.
Move, Mr. Mayor.
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Does any member wish to speak? Okay. Does Councillor agree recommendations in the report? Thank you very much. Just a last note, many Muslims in this town and across the world will be celebrating the birth of Prophet, peace be upon him, on 17th of September. I'm sure you will join me to say Eid Milad an-Nabi Mubarak. Councillor Shah, did you raise your hand or were you scratching your head?
Yeah,
as well?
just in similar vein. No, I wasn't scratching my head. I've also sent an email to all councillors. I will be hosting something Saturday evening in collaboration with Oldham Mosque Council in the same vein. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. This concludes the business for the meeting.